Conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation. This is the formula for life.
You're absolutely obsessed and addicted
obsessed with that.
to studying all of these things, which has enabled you to get to where you are now.
I had to come to the realization that the power was inside of me. When I realized I had the power, we have to realize that we're not our thoughts, we are the observer of our thoughts. And when you begin to observe your thoughts, you can go, oh, no, that's not really me.
I think that's probably one of the other root causes of people's depression, is they're disconnected from their purpose.
Most people don't know who they are and what they want and what their passion is because it was stripped away in school. Sit down, shut up, do this, walk in this straight line.
Alcohol is one of those things that's been completely normalized and even glorified in our society. It's one of the most destructive poisons that we can consume.
Well, they call it a spirit for a reason. It's a spirit. And once it gets in you, it's going to do all kind of things to you that you can't control.
I think the number one regret we're going to have on our deathbed is like, I wish I didn't spend so much fucking time scrolling and watching other people live their life instead of me living my own.
There are people out there that are more qualified than me, and I'm less qualified than them, and I'm living a life that they would love to live.
And finally, if you had one message that you could put on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it be?
Forgive yourself. A lot of people don't understand. That's one of the best things you can ever do.
Welcome back to the Jeremy Awakens podcast. Today's guest is a true multidimensional force, an author, a scholar, a truth seeker, and one of the most brilliant minds walking the planet right now. Billy Carson is the founder of Forbidden Knowledge, a best-selling author of The Woke Doesn't Mean Broke and the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, and one of the leading voices in ancient civilizations, consciousness, quantum reality, and suppressed history. He's been featured on Gaia History Channel, Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan. But what really sets Billy apart is his ability to bridge spirituality, science, and sovereignty in a way that speaks to both the soul and the intellect. Billy Carson.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the show, my brother.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, man. I'm glad I made it down.
For sure. No, really appreciate you. I actually want to get started rewinding back to the 7-year-old version of you.
Yeah. Because
it's absolutely insane to think that you've been doing this work for almost 50 years.
I know. It's insane.
and I think actually a good place to start would be back to when you're 7 years old, the ice cream truck, and really this light bulb moment that you had.
Yeah. So, I had coming here was like an eye-opener because it's nostalgic to come to this podcast studio because I rode through a lot of neighborhoods. I used to walk the streets down here all the time, And Opelika is not too far away from here, which is where I grew up in the 1970s. I moved from New York in 1977. And so when I got here, just being a kid, going from 6 to 7 years old at the time, didn't really have a lot of friends, didn't know anybody. It was a completely new environment. The kids were picking on me because they said I spoke too proper. I had a New York accent back then. I didn't understand what they were saying. And so it got me into a couple of fights and things like that. But eventually that settled down a little bit. But, just being in this abject poverty state, it was really bad. I mean, I'm talking about, eating Cairo syrup and toast, eating matzo crackers and butter. Sometimes that's your dinner. We didn't even have a dining room table. We had one piece of luggage, and on each side we had a Winn-Dixie milk crate. And so I would sit on one crate, my brother would sit on the other crate, and then the empty Carvel ice cream bowl on the top of the luggage on each side was our plates and spoons, and our forks and knives were in that. And so whatever my mom could put in that bowl, that's what you ate, And sometimes it was really almost nothing. It was scraps. Even situations of even having to connect the water hose to the next door neighbor's house just to wash off outside because we didn't have running water sometimes. So I'm talking about like real poverty, like real broke, And also we had a septic tank system in that neighborhood, so we didn't have money to empty the septic tank. So that means that you didn't have any way to flush water out of the house eventually. Showers would fill up with poop, literally, The sink would fill up with poop. So you had to wash everything outside. We created this little area in the backyard, like a little drain field to wash dishes and things like that. We called it bucket in, bucket out. It sucked when it was your week to do the dishes. So it's a lot. And I was just watching my friends. They kept going to the ice cream truck, getting the pickles, pig feet, and getting the ice cream and getting all the candy. And I was jealous, man. I was like, how the hell are they getting this every day? Yeah. Maybe they had assistants or who knows what they had, but they had money coming from somewhere. And I just wanted to get something, just to feel like a normal kid. So I said to myself, my toys. I don't play with these toys. So I took that same milk crate, turned it over, and started loading it with all the toys. Broken toys, everything I had. And I said, I'm going to go door to door. I'm going to violate my mom's wishes. So I had to take a risk. I violated my mom's wishes or her rules of never leaving from this side of the gate to that side of the gate in front of the house, because this was a dangerous neighborhood. People were getting killed every day, and there was drugs and everything else out there. But I said, I got to take this risk. And I went door to door. Sir, ma'am, looking for donations for my toys, a penny, a nickel, a dollar, whatever you can. I just want to have money for an ice cream truck. And people started I was pulling on their heartstrings a little bit, So they were giving me money. And I squared the block, which means I went all the way around to where I started, and I had about $13 and change. Now, for me, that was a lot of money. I mean, it's the 70s, $13 is probably like $70. And I took a famous picture with a Polaroid camera that I had the money in my hand like this. Because my cousins were down the street, and they had a Polaroid. They snapped a shot of me with my cousin, and I opened up the money. I showed the money. I was so proud of myself. But that's when I had an epiphany. I realized that nobody was coming to save me. Nobody's coming to save me. I mean, nobody. It's going to be me that has to save me. And that's where I came up with this formula. Now, at the time, I didn't have the exact formula laid out, but I understood that when I thought about something, if I acted on it, I can get a different result. So I had the conscious thought, I multiplied it by action, and that equals manifestation. That's this t-shirt right here. Conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation. This is the formula for life. And once you enact this formula, you can apply this formula to anything you do, and you will get a result. So I understood the energy exchange that's required to acquire things. And from that moment, I knew my life was always going to be different. That afternoon, I was standing in the house looking out the window, and my mom said, what's the matter, son? I said, I don't belong here, and I'm getting out. I knew it. I knew that I was going to break free from this financial matrix and this enslavement matrix and this ghetto matrix. I just knew it inside of me. I see that I did something so simple, and it made a huge change in my life. If I do that again in another way, it's going to keep happening. And so that's exactly what I began to do. By the time I was 12, I had started my own company. I saved up money from selling newspaper subscriptions for the Miami News and flipped that money into digital car stereos. When nobody had digital, everyone still had 8-track, or they had these old analog radios. I bought them from Galaxy Electronics in New York, COD, cash on delivery back then. No credit cards over the phone back then, didn't exist. They bring you the product, you give the UPS driver the cash, he puts it in a sealed envelope, you sign the invoice, and you have your product. And I started selling these digital radios all over the Tri-County area. I became famous for these radios. They were high-powered digital radios with high-powered cassette decks on them. And eventually, I started doing installations in front of my house. I went to the local store, GBT Audio on 441, and I got their top installer. I said, look, I'm going to pay you more. Just come work for me. Guy started installing right in front of my house, and we started making a lot of money. I was making more than my parents when I was 13, because it took a year to build up the business.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, just understanding okay, action. My friends took all their newspaper money, and they spent it every week on junk.
Yeah.
I saved all my newspaper money, my paychecks, except for the money that my dad required me to pay for rent to live there at the age of 12. And also I bought one thing for myself, a digital calculator watch from Kmart. That's the only thing I bought. And that's what gave me the idea for the radio, because I saw the digital readout and I was like, these analog radios eventually are going to be like what I have on this watch. And my friend was laughing at me because we were sitting in his dad's car. He said, oh man, you're crazy. And a week later, my mom sent me to the grocery store. And when I went in, I always go to the magazine section, and that's when I opened up the Opportunity magazine. And when I opened it, it opened right into the page of Galaxy Electronics with the digital car radios. And I said, this is it right here. I'm going to get these. And that's how I broke free.
That's crazy, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important to circle back to these moments and experiences early on in life, because people might see you today and they're like, they just see the end result and the outcome without understanding the adversity and the obstacles that you've overcome. Because I know your dad was also addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah. My dad was alcoholic, drug addict. Every kind of drug you could think of, he was on it all.
And it's interesting because you have basically stayed away from substances your entire life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your dad's experience played a big role in that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I saw that and I realized, well, just from studying from the encyclopedias when I was a kid, we didn't have Google or anything. And I was fortunate to get the encyclopedias salesman come to the house, and they dropped the set off. The guy took one payment and never came back. But reading those books, I learned something about addictive personalities in biology section. And that's when it triggered then my spark in my brain. I said, oh, my dad's got an addictive personality. So it can be weed, it can be drugs, it can be something else. No matter what it is, if you've got that personality trait, you can aggressively do something or seek something over and over again, whether it's gambling or whatever. And I realized if he's got that and I have his DNA, and predominantly what I learned in that encyclopedia, this is all the way back in elementary school, is that through the RNA of the father, a lot of those traits are passed into the offspring. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go through this. So I instantly told myself, I'm never going to mess with this stuff.
And I feel like you actually channeled that addictive behavior to your purpose.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you're absolutely obsessed and addicted
I'm obsessed with that.
to studying all of
Yeah.
these things, which has enabled you to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I put it use it in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people will take those, it's called epigenetic memory. You have 15 to 20 generations of memories in your body. It's called epigenetics. This is now scientifically proven. They teach it in universities. But it can also give you something called PTSD. So a lot of people are walking around with PTSD and their lives should be amazing. They don't know what's wrong with themselves. It could be the epigenetics that are affecting them. And I went to Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a psychiatrist. He's like the #1 psychiatrist in the world. He has all the NFL, CTEs, and he does all the Hollywood actresses and actors and so forth and big name people. He does SPECT scans, which was what's really made him popular. I got a SPECT scan from him, and he looked at my brain scan. And he saw the trauma pattern, diamond pattern on the top of my skull, my brain. He said, that's a trauma pattern. You went through a lot of trauma. And he said, but the way you set up, you didn't develop PTSD, you developed PTG. And I said, well, what's that? He said, that's post-traumatic growth. So I took the traumatic experiences and I projected them with that personality trait of the addictive personality into something I'm passionate about. Fortunately, it happened to be something that can help people and teach people and get people excited. And I then drove that energy into that versus succumbing to the victim mentality and falling deeper and deeper into a dark hole.
I've had Dr. Amen on the podcast actually, like 3 years ago.
Nice. He's great, man.
Yeah, he's doing amazing work. So going back to some of those traumatic experiences that you had, do you feel like you've kind of fully healed and moved on from those? Or do you feel like there's been things that have still been deeply suppressed that sometimes show up?
Yeah, there's still more work to do, for sure. I've got a lot of work done in a very short period of time, though. Recently, like I told you earlier off camera, I did 40 years of Zen, Dave Asprey. That was an amazing experience. Did a lot of work, because every time you come out of a meditation session, or before you go into a meditation session, you sit with a counselor. And the counselor has you work up things that you're going to address from your past traumatic experiences. And then we create a plan on how to address those traumas within the meditation. So it's a very targeted attack on past trauma, to deal with it, to bring it forward, and then to actually release it, or even forgive yourself, or forgive whoever helped cause that trauma, and then get to move from the forgiveness into gratitude, and then move from that into love. And when you move into the love frequency within that moment, then you can release that trauma and you move to the next one. So it's a very strategic movement through trauma, and through that 1 week, that was incredible. And then, of course, some counselors that I've been seeing, Dr. Amen and others, I've done a lot of work, but there's still more to go, you know?
Yeah. I feel like you can be a really powerful voice just for this generation, also with the Black youth.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I feel like there's a lot of people who can relate to your situation where they don't really have a male role model figure in their life. Maybe they actually have a dad, but maybe they're just not showing up in a powerful way like they need to.
Yeah.
And they're struggling, they're suffering. For those kids out there, like what do you think is the best route to actually break free like you did?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think that the best route for them to break free is to be able to, first of all, understand that the power is inside of them. I had to come to the realization that the power was inside of me. And when I realized I had the power, that's when everything changed. We've been taught and programmed to think and believe that the power is on the outside, that you have to go outside and someone has to come and give it to you. You have to hope, beg, wish, pray. I believe that we all have the power innate inside of us, and we have to learn how to walk in that power. So instead of feeling helpless and hopeless, begin to look for solutions to the problems, or start connecting and collaborating with people that may be able to provide the solution to the problem. What I found that if a lot of the times in these inner cities and in these impoverished states, people focus on the problems all the time. And they only talk about the problems. Sorry about this. They only talk about the problems instead of really focusing on, well, what are the solutions to these problems? And what I found was that when I started meditating and focusing as a youth on solutions to problems, that's when I was able to figure a lot of things out at a very young age. I was light years ahead of everyone else, even adults. I was ahead of my parents because I focused on solutions. Simple thing like my mom fell down in Winn-Dixie and that's a grocery store. She hurt her knee. She ended up getting $5,000 lawsuit, right? I said, if you listen to me, you'll turn this $5,000 into $1 million. She said, what are you talking about? I said, you see what I did with my electronics company? I said, okay. In that same opportunity book, there's a dry cleaning, a foam extraction dry cleaning carpet machine. It uses something called dry foam extraction technology. This is a long time ago in the 80s. And it's called a Von Schrader dry foam extraction machine. That's the name of it, I remember now. It was $4,999, $4,999. I said, if you buy this machine, you can start a carpet cleaning company. Everybody has carpets in the 80s. Solving a problem, cleaning carpets. She says, how am I going to do that? I don't have any way to market or get clients. I said, you deliver newspapers, don't you? She said, yeah. I said, well, you make a flyer, you put your phone number on it, and you stuff every newspaper with your flyer, and you drop it off at all your customers' doors. And your phone's going to ring off the hook. Exactly what happened. Phone rang off the hook. She started booking appointments. She quit being a newspaper delivery lady and started becoming a carpet cleaning company, Carson & Carson Carpet Cleaning, and built that into eventually a company that did earn a few $1 million.
How old were you at the time?
I was 13.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
At 13, I was getting bar mitzvahs, and they told me I was turning into a man, but I wasn't starting businesses like you. Are you ready to feel limitless in 2025? I'm talking limitless physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially. This is your sign to try out microdosing for 30 days. We have a very special opportunity for podcast listeners. You can get started for only $222. This includes the medicine being shipped to you, the highest quality, fair trade, organic, sustainably sourced microdoses in the world at your doorstep. And you also get access to live group coaching calls with me, our private community. This is your sign to take ownership of your life in 2025. If you're ready, hit the link in the description, and I can't wait to see you on the inside.
Right.
What would you say, like, because there still seems to be a lot of tension between like racial issues in America right now, especially recently last week with this whole case with Carmelo Anthony. Yeah. And then obviously the stuff recently, like in 2021 with George Floyd, and there still seems to be a lot of tension in this area. I think hopefully things are moving in a positive direction. What are your thoughts on kind of like the racial divide in America at this moment?
Yep. So the racial divide is, it's something that's really been pushed on us through this divide and conquer tactic. And this divide and conquer tactic is ancient. It's been going on since thousands and thousands of years ago. They learned that if you can take the people, no matter what status they are in that civilization or in that culture, and you can get them fighting against each other, the real super oligarchs at the top, the ones who really truly control and wield the power, they sit back and cut up the pie together. They'll fund both sides of both wars. They'll have laws on both sides that still benefit each one of them. They will look like they're battling each other, but at the same time, they're really working together and collaborating to make a lot of money. And the people, us, the normal average people, we're the ones who look like jackasses. We're fighting each other over nothing. They've turned us into believing that a color of a skin has power, or a financial status of a person has a certain level of power. And that if a person is rich, they're probably evil. Or if a person is too poor, they're going to be a thug and they're going to be deadly. These are all brainwashing tactics. And unfortunately, the human being is programmed to absorb this programming from the ages of 1 to 7. So from the age of 1 to 7, we get all this input coming at us. Black is evil, white is okay, God is white with a white robe, or, this person, this cop killed this person, now I got to attack all white people, or all white people are bad now because this cop did this or that. It's all programming. Yeah. And then the polytricksters get together and they wield their power and they trick, left wing, right wing. It's all the same bird. And they cut the pie up on both sides. All lambs that go down that voting booth are led to slaughter. They all get their heads cut off at the bottom of the thing. So it's just like we as a people have to begin to realize, like, hey, wait a minute. At the end of the day, at its deepest, lightest core, I believe that people want to love one another. I believe that people will help each other. And the reason why I say this, I've seen major car accidents on the highway where people will stop their cars and race over to the person a perfect stranger that they don't even know. They don't know what race, color, creed, what gender. They don't know anything, but they're racing to help them. Why do they do that? Because at a human being's core, they want to be of service to others. They want to help and love people. They want the best for people. It's only when the programming takes over our subconscious that we override our innate need and want to collaborate and love and help and assist. We have to be able to separate ourselves from our thoughts to beat this problem. We have to realize that we're not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts. And when you begin to observe your thoughts, you can go, oh, no, that's not really me. That's the programming code trying to make me do something stupid or hate this person for some stupid reason or be racist against this person for some reason, when really that's a code I've been given. But I can overwrite that code because I'm observing it. And then you can make changes like in a drop of a dime in your life and your decisions, how you respond, how you talk to people. But until somebody realizes that separation they can have, that they are observing their thoughts and you can observe the code and you can rewrite the code in real time, that's when things are going to change.
Yeah. I think a lot of people started to understand this code and awaken to the truth during the pandemic.
Yes.
Right? And,
yeah.
and it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes something really drastic for people to really open their eyes and take action.
Yeah.
But it was like they were closing down parks, closing down the beach here in Miami Beach, closing down gyms, but liquor stores remained open because they were essential business. Because at the end of the day, if you're numbing yourself with alcohol and you're just conforming to the news, keeping your social distancing and wearing your mask while you're driving in a car by yourself, getting all the jabs, right? You're becoming indoctrinated by the narrative of fear. And I think a lot of people, including myself, really took a step back and was like, wait a second, there's something bigger going on right now. So I'm curious to know, like, when the pandemic started, March 2020, was this something that you kind of foresaw coming?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let me tell you how I foresaw it. So I had learned from experience that something else was coming, not specifically the pandemic. So, I've been around for a long time. Obviously, been through a lot in terms of like catastrophes in America.
Right.
And I remember the first big one was the 2000 bug. And it was this 2000 bugs coming. I had a call center at the time, and it was going to be, everything's going to, all of our computers are going to shut down. Everything's going to come to an end because of the 2000 bug, the millennium bug's here. And I was like, I don't think it's going to shut down, but we'll see what happens. We woke up and everything was fine, but it created such a frequency of fear. And they manipulated that fear. And I saw that and I was like, wow. And then all of a sudden it was the swine flu's coming. And then it was Ebola's coming. And then it was the real estate market collapse. And then it was swine flu again. And I was like, oh, I see the cycle here. Every time things seem like they're just easing up and people can go, oh, and take a deep breath and relax, they come with another thing. So after the real estate market collapsed in 2008, I almost lost everything. Because I had taken everything I had did from call centers and email marketing, which was millions, and I put it all into real estate because I thought in my brain that was the way to go. I didn't see the bubble coming. And so it was a hard hit for me. And that's when I realized always be prepared for the next one and always have backup plans. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I diversified. I didn't put my eggs in one basket. And I said to everyone who was around me, I said, there's another one coming. I don't know when, but within 7 to 8 years, there's another one coming. And it came. There was a swine flu again or some Ebola thing. And then another one came, right? So it's all, in my personal opinion, it's all planned. All these things are pre-planned from decades prior. And now that this COVID has eased up and relaxed, something else will come. You have to be prepared for it. And they just keep us in this cycle of fear. The more fear they can implement on us, so they create the problem, they wait for the reaction, then they provide the solution. And that's their style of play. That's how they navigate us and keep us stuck in this matrix. And you have to understand that another one will come. Are you going to be prepared for it? How you've been diversified? I remember I was on the History Channel in 2012 because I built an underground city called Fort Terra Nova.
Where's the city?
It's in northwest Georgia, just outside of Elberton County. Just outside of Elberton County, in northwest Georgia. And it's the size of 5 Walmarts, and 360 people can live underground for a year off grid. So it was on an episode called Countdown to Apocalypse, Countdown to Apocalypse Nostradamus.
Okay.
In 2013, I believe it aired first. But the reason why I did that, again, thinking ahead, now these underground shelter systems, they can last for up to 250 years, okay? And I'm thinking for ahead, what if there's a localized disaster or a geological disaster, or maybe even potentially a global disaster? What will I do? What will my family, what will my future generations be able to do? Well, now they have somewhere to go. Just thinking futuristically, you have to pre-think these things, all the potential outcomes that can happen. They're called in quantum physics superposition. Every outcome exists and that can happen. You have to collapse one into your reality or prepare for something that you might not be able to control and have something in place that could be your plan B, C, D, E, F. And so that's what I did.
And once the actual pandemic happened and everything was starting to unfold, how were you approaching things personally with your own health and also communicating things to your community?
Yeah.
Because at the same time, like, I was putting out messages, it's okay, go outside and get some sun. This is actually going to elevate your levels of vitamin D. And those messages were actually being shadow banned.
Yeah, I know.
So how are you handling it yourself with your own health? And I'm also curious on that point, with your 5 kids and the whole vaccination situation, because we also know that, the rates of autism are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say that there's a direct correlation between the rise and spike in autism and childhood vaccinations. So I'm curious to know how you approach that.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Well, when COVID was raging and all the fear was out there, the first week, I was just as afraid as everybody else. I had on the gloves and the mask, and after about a week and a half, I was like, wait a minute. A virus is a microscopic thing. It can go through this mask as if the mask doesn't even exist. That's when I took off the mask. I said, forget the mask. That's not going to save my life. And then I started really analyzing the fear porn that they were pumping. And I started looking for a nurse, and I found a nurse, a critical care nurse, and I actually interviewed her. I put that on my TV network, Forbidden Knowledge TV. One of the very first interviews I did for my TV network I launched my TV network during the pandemic. And she told me that something is off a little bit with the COVID and these ventilators. And I said, well, what are you doing to stay safe? She said she takes something called, I don't know if I can say it on here because they shut my YouTube account off for 2 weeks when I set it on my own account. So
You can say it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's silver. That the nurses there use silver. They take a couple spoons of it every day and they wash their hands and everything in silver. It has nanoparticle floating silver, suspended silver in it, and silver particles, when they come in contact with viruses, they blow up the viruses. And that's what they were using. And I was like, wow. And I said, that's all it takes? She says, yeah, that's really all it takes. I said, why do they seem like this thing is unknown and they can't fix it, they can't cure it, they can't stop it? She says, I don't know. That's when I knew it was trash. I mean, this lady's a full-time nurse in critical care, emergency room, dealing with COVID patients all day, all night. And she was trying to work around talking about not wanting to put people on ventilators because it kills them. And I was like, oh, man. So this whole thing that's when I knew it was contrived. So I just tell people, look, I was telling people during that time period, this is what the nurse said. She said silver helped. And I put that on my website and did very well with it. But also people were going outside. I told, go outside, walk up and down the sidewalk. You can't walk directly on the beach. Walk up and down the sidewalk. Go outside, do squats. Anything to get sun and exercise. Keep your body moving, keep your lymph moving, and eat clean foods to the best of your ability, you know. And I said, forget avoiding physical contact. You need physical contact in times like this. Otherwise, you're going to get into a depression. So I was just advising my people to do everything that I would have done, which I actually did, you know. And when it comes to these vaccine situations, I knew that vaccines were horrible from a long time ago. When I started studying, probably I would say now, the first time I started studying vaccines would have been, 35 years ago, maybe 36 years ago. And I wanted to know what was in them. I'm an inquisitive person like that. I'm always checking and looking into things and trying to figure things out. Well, how does this work? How does it stop this from attacking the body? How does it keep us alive? It wasn't because of conspiracy. It was trying to figure out like, wow, this is amazing. This can really cure you. But supposedly it has some of the illness in it. So how can it stop? How does my body take this in and then fight against it? And when I started looking into that, I found all these weird, mercury was in there and all these other weird things. This is a long time ago too. And I'm like, why would they put mercury in here? And I had just studied mercury probably 2 or 3 months prior for another project that I was researching, and mercury is extremely toxic. And it was talking about if you break open your thermometer, which has mercury, back then we had these mercury thermometers, I don't even know if they sell them anymore, but you break it open, it's super toxic, you gotta go to the emergency room immediately, right? So I'm like, you mean to tell me I can't touch that and it's super toxic, I have to go to the hospital, but now they're gonna inject it in me So that's when I started saying, something ain't right here.
Right.
So the more I looked into it, I said, oh, hell no. And then when I had kids, none of my kids got vaccinated.
None of your kids got
No.
vaccinated.
What I did, too, was I volunteered at all their schools, elementary, middle school, high school. And how I didn't do any kind of a form or anything like that. I just would take their yellow and blue form, and I would just fill it in with some shot information from somebody else's card and sign it like a doctor and put it right back in the folder inside behind in the office of the school and close the drawer. I remember I had to take my son, Justin, to, and I hadn't had a chance to do it with Justin because he was the youngest, and I didn't get a chance to volunteer at his schools because his mom raised him partly in a different place. And I had to take him to get his 10th grade physical for basketball. And I went to the physical place. The nurse said, oh, my God, he doesn't have any vaccines. And I said, yeah, and he ain't getting any either. He goes, no, he's got to get all these vaccines. I said, listen, he's here for one reason, a physical exam for basketball, and that's what he's going to get. Why are you against it? I said, listen to me. I'm paying you to do a physical exam. If you don't want to do it, I'll leave. It's okay. She said, okay. So she starts the physical exam, and then she's checking everything. She checked his heart. She goes, something's wrong here. And she checks his heart again. Something's wrong. He has an arrhythmia. I'm like, an arrhythmia? He's got an irregular heartbeat. I'm like, I said, ma'am, how? This boy's been doing tour-a-days for boxing. He's a state champion boxing at this time.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, for his weight in the age group in Florida. And so he's been doing tour-a-days for 7 years. There's nothing wrong with his heart. Check it again. She checks it again. It's the clock on the wall. So you see, if I wasn't an a-hole,
Yeah.
right, and letting her know that, no, you don't tell me what to do. I tell you what to do because you're working for me because I'm paying you. See, we are so nice, people, we meaning people are so nice, and we feel like we don't have any knowledge in the area, so we'll let an attorney, a doctor, a physician or whatever, tell us everything that they're going to do for us instead of us saying, no, I don't want that done. This is what I want done. And realizing that they actually work for us, not the other way around. And another parent would have been flipped out, would have panicked, would have taken a referral to go see a cardiologist who then would have put him on all kind of medicines because they want to get the money. They're not going to say there's nothing wrong with your heart. And the next thing you know, my son's not in sports anymore. He doesn't play basketball, and he's living a life that's just depressing. But because I was able to stand up and realize this is all hype. You just, you're not doing your job right. He was able to play basketball at a very high level, got looked at by some schools, had a great time, and stayed very active and still active till this day. But that's why we have to be stronger as parents. My daughter had a baby, my oldest daughter, her first baby. I put together a birthing plan for her. And the birthing plan is as soon as the baby comes out, none of that eye drop crap, none of this needles. You put the baby straight on her chest and don't cut the umbilical cord right away. Let the lotus still keep pumping nutrients into the body. Put the baby right on the chest. Don't wash it off and wipe it off. Put the baby right on the chest. Let the baby feel the mother's breath and hold the baby, hugging the baby immediately, the mother's warmth immediately. And then after that, after a few minutes of that, then wipe the baby off, get it cleaned up, take care of the placenta and everything. But don't inject anything into the baby and don't put that crap in the baby's eyes.
I feel like you could be a doula. Straight up. And I feel like also, isn't it like in the first 24 hours, they typically give a baby a hepatitis B vaccine?
Yeah.
Which is absolutely crazy because the only way you can contract hepatitis B is through like being interacted with someone who has HIV, I think, and something else that is just absolutely unlikely when you're a baby coming out the womb.
It's just another billing code. See, doctors and hospitals and physicians, they live off of billing codes. So the more billing codes that they can compound into one visit, it's a big fat paycheck coming in 60 days from insurance companies. So they they've mastered the billing code system. And I knew somebody who did the billing codes for a physician. That's how I learned about it. And they just worked them into teaching them every single thing they can add and every little tiny billing code they can get in there so they can get paid. And so they've mastered compounding billing codes. And it's unfortunate because now you're talking about capitalism and health. And unfortunately, those two things shouldn't go together. You should be a healer because you want to heal people. And you should get paid a decent amount of money, but it should be that's the pay. Not if I do this, and this, I can make an extra $300,000, $400,000 this year. No. We're going to pay you $1 million a year, and you're going to heal people. They're going to become healed. They're not going to be sickly. They're not going to be reliant on all these medications and pharmaceuticals. But unfortunately, we have capitalism in healthcare, and that's what's destroying us.
Yeah. I mean, my dad was a physician for over 40 years. He was a neurologist. I witnessed my dad save lives.
Yeah.
And I also saw the darker side of Western medicine.
Yeah.
That's just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
Yeah.
And it's completely removing the power away from the patient.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's actually the patients who should have the leverage in the situation, because it's like, hey, listen, I'm taking my time, my money, my energy to get help and support. But oftentimes they just lack the knowledge and awareness.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to see that, but I feel like there's a positive shift coming where people are taking ownership of their health. I mean, it's crazy too, Billy. Like, if your son or your daughter is going through a dark period or they're feeling sad, right? Your first instinct isn't to hand them an antidepressant.
No.
You're going to ask them questions like, hey, are you spending time in nature?
Right.
Are you exercising? How's your nutrition? Like, are you spending time with friends? Are you living out your purpose? So what are some other things that you have done with your kids to really give them that autonomy and sovereignty as they grow up and become adults?
You just named a few of them there, but also one thing that helps a lot with depression or feeling down, magnesium. Magnesium is a great natural supplement you can take. It'll take away anxiety. It'll help take away depression thoughts. It'll make you feel more relaxed and eased and at ease, and it's not going to kill you. You know? And then, of course, talking. Like I tell them, you want to talk, you can call me and talk. I'm not going to try to solve every problem. I'm going to be there to listen. So if you need to vent, venting is important sometimes. I call people sometimes just to vent. So you can call somebody, you can vent, just let me hear what's going on, get it all out on me. If I hear something in there, I may bring it up and see if you're open to any suggestions. But I think it's important to also vent and also, again, meditate. Being able to really, truly meditate, clear your mind, bring your body into homeostasis, get brain-heart coherence going. And I have several different meditation tracks I like them to listen to, and just clear your mind and clear your spirit and just recenter yourself.
You talk a lot about the elite oligarchs who are really behind the scenes running the show in a lot of these different areas that we're completely unaware of. I know you've talked a little bit about the Rothschild family. Someone that I've been just hearing a lot about is George Soros. I'm not sure how much like you followed his journey in all of the strings that he's pulling. Who are some of these people that citizens should just be conscious and aware of?
There's only about 100 families controlling everything. George Soros, unfortunately, is a real dark individual. He controls and pulls strings behind the scenes. He can make a phone call and collapse an entire country's GDP if he wants to. He has a lot of power. He consults with the central banking system. He's taken part probably in some way making some kind of money off the central banks. He's in collaboration and cahoots with a lot of things that are big illusions, like what's that one? Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, he was the guy behind that.
He's the guy behind Black Lives Matter.
And all the Free Palestine college campus rallies.
Right.
Yeah.
All of that's George Soros. He creates a divide and conquer. I mean, Black Lives Matter has done nothing for black people. They've done -0.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Except paint the streets and put up signs.
And then they've also just defunded the police in a lot of these cities, and that elevated crime and removed a lot of safety for families. So
it's all about divide and conquer. It's all about destabilization. This is what his specialty is. He knows how to destabilize neighborhoods, cities, even in countries. That's his specialty. He profits off of that. So people like that are just dark, and a lot of these the Rothschild family is worth over $700 trillion as a family as a whole, collectively, but you'll never see them in Forbes magazine, right? The Rockefeller Foundation, owned by the Rockefeller family, they're responsible for a lot of these the Zika virus. They made the Zika virus. I went online on my YouTube account years ago. It's on Instagram too, on Forbidden Knowledge. You can go all the way back to the Zika virus scare. I went straight with a screen share to the Rockefeller Foundation and ordered Zika virus online with no license, no anything. It was like $7,000, and I could have had it. If I would have clicked the next button, it would have been delivered to my house.
What?
Yeah, in Florida. Zika virus, which they were spraying the schools with the kids in the schools, and the Zika virus and the mosquitoes are going to kill everybody on the planet. It was just another moneymaker, If you look at the map from Google Earth, looking down over Antarctica, where all the bases are from all the countries, there's all these countries' bases down there with a no war treaty. They're researching something. They won't tell us what it is by this big hole in the ice. But who else is down there? The Rockefeller Foundation has their own research base down there too.
In Antarctica.
In Antarctica.
Interesting.
Yeah. You can see it on the. You can go to Google or Google Sky or Google Earth and look down, and you can see the whole thing. But they're involved in so many things. Specifically, a lot of the big pharma stuff, a lot of these viruses and so forth, a lot of this viral research and this proof of concept for these viruses and viral these additives that they add to the vaccines and so forth. I'm like, why are they doing this? Like, who gets into this business? People who want to control other people. I remember there was one statement that one of the Rockefellers had made. I can't remember the exact one. He might be the one that passed away, but he said that they deserve to rule over us. They really do believe that deep down in their soul. The Rothschilds go all the way back to ancient Kemet, which is really ancient Egypt. And the god Ra, who was really a person, not a real god, Marduk was also his other name. He's known in the Bible as Marduk, in the Torah as Marduk as well. And in the Sumerian tablets, he's also Marduk. He was in a war, and he was losing the war, and he didn't want to give up kingship and rule over the earth at the time. So he gave and decreed the kingship so he can escape to his Ra-Kam, R-A-K-A-M. Now that translates into Ra shield. Kam, K-A-M translates into shield. Over time it became the Rothschilds. And that's who has still to this very day the dominant money and the power and the force to control and move things and shift behind the scenes, everything going on till this very day. You know, and a lot of these secret societies all sprung off from the Egyptian mystery schools, and so they became dark because you can use the same knowledge for goodness or darkness. So in the mystery schools, it was all about teaching these techniques and this knowledge and these principles. But when these quote-unquote gods disappeared or left, these beings with advanced knowledge stopped doing what they were doing or somehow they left. The people who then were adept initiates started bringing in people who weren't adept initiates, started bringing in their friends, their this one, that one. I'm going to bring in this guy in because I like him or whatever. People who shouldn't have the knowledge, basically. The knowledge then evolved into darkness, and then it became dark knowledge. Just like you have the Star Wars, you have the Jedi. They use the Force for good. And the Empire uses the same exact force for evil. Same thing happened here on Earth. It's really just a metaphor for what's already happened here, that movie. They took that same knowledge and that wisdom and turned it and used it for darkness. And Thoth warned us about this in the Emerald Tablets. He said, beware of the dark brothers. They operate behind the scenes to pull the strings. And they come in from the age. They come in they come in and walk in here through the ages. So there are people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings, that are controlling wars and funding both sides of wars and controlling economies and controlling us fighting each other, all so they can activate power, control, and dominion over us.
And a lot of this is interesting because I feel like a lot of this on a root cause level is unhealed trauma. Because it's like, why would you want to use your power and influence to cause so much divisiveness and destruction?
Yeah.
Which takes us back to like those first 7 years of life where your subconscious mind is really being programmed the most and really doing the work as you become an adult to actually heal from your emotional wounds so you don't operate from that level of fear.
You see, these people, these gods of old, they're known in the Sumerian Kings list, which is located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England. It's an actual list of kings that ruled pre-flood. These people believed that they didn't believe they were gods. They masqueraded as gods. And, but they had a lot of knowledge. And because they had so much knowledge, they appeared to the regular person that they were gods. See, when a more advanced culture engages a less advanced culture, the less advanced culture will deify them. It's called a cargo cult. This happened in the Atoll Islands in the South Pacific. When Americans went there with boats and planes, they had never seen boats and planes before. They went there to test nuclear devices, so they started moving these people off the island and everything. But they were giving them, cans of Spam, clothing, and other trinkets. And these people thought they were gods because they had never seen any other human being other than their own tribe. They tattooed USA on their chest. They took sticks and turned them into look like guns. They made a fake runway and took reeds and branches and made an airplane. And they would line the runway every day looking up at the sky, praying for the sky gods to return with more cans of Spam. So that's a small metaphor or example of what exactly happened, I believe, to the entire world. Advanced beings came here. In the biblical text, they call them the Elohim, which are multiple people, and they had knowledge, and they really beguiled a lot of people. And it's unfortunate that happened because those people put in this divide and conquer system that's still activated in us. They put in this hatred system, this jealousy system, this caste system, or this ranking of classes. And till this very day, we're still operating within that ancient system of understanding like your status in society. And now it's all about, how many followers do you have? How many likes do you get? It's still going even to this moment.
Yeah. I'm interested also to hear your perspective, as someone who's Jewish, and I've been diving a little deeper into like some of these origin stories, for instance, like the burning bush and Moses. And what I've been hearing is that it was an acacia tree, which is a psychedelic plant.
Yeah.
And Moses was inhaling that smoke, which gave him some superhuman powers. Yeah. I'm curious to know, is that something that aligns with your beliefs?
It's possible. I mean, there's been a couple different versions of the story. That's one of them. Another one is that he went up there and talked to one of these Anunnaki beings, right? That's another one. And another one is that he actually was Pharaoh Akhenaten, who got kicked out of Egypt for trying to usher in monotheism, a one-God religion. So there's several different versions of it. Either way, in all of the versions of the story, it's always the same thing that happens. He goes up to the top of the mountain, and when he comes back down, he's got these rules, right? The 10 Commandments. Now, in the 10 Commandments, which really, when you look at the 42 laws of Mayat, you find out that the 10 Commandments, which are more ancient than the 10 Commandments, the 42 laws of Mayat have the 10 Commandments within them. So in some way, he got an abridged version of the 42 laws of Mayat is what he got. But the first rule on there is, the first law is, thou shalt not kill. And as soon as he gets to the bottom of the mountain and he sees his people down there making a golden calf, what does he do? He starts killing everybody. Hey guys, I got this new tablet. I downloaded it from the cloud. By the way, I'm going to kill you now, even though it says don't kill anybody. I'm going to kill all of you guys. He kills a ton of people. And then, but you know the rest of the story. But it's just like we see this and people don't even stop to think and say, that doesn't make any sense. Why did he kill all these people? Oh, they're all worshiping the golden calf. Of course he killed them. No, not of course he killed them. You just got this decree and this knowledge. And the first thing you do at the time you get down, so this is the problem, I think, with a lot of the religious beliefs. I think that they can be twisted, altered, and remixed into whatever the individual person's perception of it is. And they can then enact anything they want to do in the name of that thing. So I'm going to wipe these people out in the name of God. And it's going to be okay because that's what I believe. And I think that's what happens a lot.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Anunnaki?
Yeah, sure. The Anunnaki are ancient race of beings. The Anunnaki name itself in ancient times meant those who came from heaven to earth. And in not more modern, but still thousands of years ago, it turned into descended from a royal bloodline because they believed that those people were connected to the Anunnaki. Matter of fact, I know this because I have a license plate called Anunnaki. That's my custom plate on one of my cars. Okay. And so when you do that, they make you, they look up the definition and descended from royal bloodline. I said, yeah, I know. I said, are you? I said, well, we all are at the DMV, right? But so those who came from heaven to earth. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means, in my opinion, people who are not from here. That's my personal opinion. Now, some people might not agree with that, and that's okay. But I believe that our ancestors were trying to tell us something, that people came here. When you look into a lot of the religions and you listen to what the actual being that they're trying to worship is saying, Jesus says, I'm not of this earth. God is clearly not from earth because he created it, right? According to the text. If you go through all the religions, right, Islam and all the way down, they all have gods and beings that are not from here. In some way, they came here to engage the people on this planet, but didn't originate here. So we've been worshiping aliens our whole lives and not even knowing it. Okay.
And what about Jesus? Because I've also been told that Jesus was actually like a super spiritual shaman. Yeah. And he was in Egypt, right? Like he was during his most formidable years.
He was definitely in Egypt for sure. Every year in October, I'm going again. Hopefully, you guys can join me. We take people to Coptic Cairo, and you'll actually see the location of Jesus where he actually laid his head and slept. They still have it there. It's like a crypt now. They've got it like roped off, and they've got his name engraved in the window there. His mother was there with him, and then there's outside that Coptic church, there's a gigantic board made of steel that has the path he took through Egypt and where he stayed along the way. He was there to learn the Egyptian mysteries, or back then it was called the mystery school teachings. He disappears out of the Bible, at the age of 12, and reappears at the age of 32. Where does he go? Well, according to many accounts, not from Billy Carson's brain, according to many well-documented accounts, he ended up in Egypt. Well, the Bible knows that because in the Bible, God says, I called my son out of Egypt. That's just before he declares himself to be the Messiah, right? God says, I called my son out of Egypt in the biblical text. And then he rides it on the back of a donkey and declares himself to be the Messiah. But he also went to Tibet, and he also went to India. He went to Tibet to learn Qigong and energy healing with his hands, which we know he was healing with his hands. And then he also went to India to learn mystic arts. And according to the Gospel of the Holy 12, teaching reincarnation all the way back. And the Bible, I believe, really is a reincarnation story. Even in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, in the book of Revelations, God tells the people that, the Spirit tells the people that when you die, you will get a new name and a new body. It says, for you will not be spirits without bodies. Sounds like reincarnation to me.
Yeah.
In the Jewish faith, of course, is the origins of a lot of the Old Testament, the Torah, a lot of information in there. I think the Jewish star has been mistaken for what it really is. It's become now more decoration or like, if I have this on, you know that I'm a Jewish person. But I think the star itself is really something called a tesseract or star tetrahedron.
Okay.
Right? So we're talking about two pyramid structures interacting in a way, one upside down and one top side up. And then one to the left, one to the right. It creates a tetrahedron. But really what it is a tesseract. It's a fourth dimensional hypercube. It's something in ancient times called Metatron's cube.
Metatron's cube.
Yeah, Metatron's cube. You have one right there.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
So Metatron, Metaron. And, Hollywood has taken alternates of that like Megatron. The inside of that star is something called the hypercube, which, as you know, is in Transformers. And you have Megatron in Transformers. But it made him the bad guy, even though Metatron is not bad. Metatron is a spiritual energy, right? And so we know that through the intersecting connections of that star point, that there is this energy emanating into the third dimension that is the energy of creation. It's a frequency. And so that's all about creation and frequency is what that really means. It's the origins of 0-point energy.
And I've heard you say before that your belief is that God is more of a frequency.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So, okay, when and some people get confused about that because, people really want God to be like a man with a white robe and a magic wand, and he's granting wishes. I think that John should win his football game this weekend. Bing!
Yeah.
Come on. Stop it. The Germans want to win this war. Bing! Come on. It's just not happening. People pray for the most craziest things. I believe that that this universe is created, just like the Bible says, just like all the ancient indigenous cultures say. I believe the method of creation is called a fractal holographic universe, or matrix, a matrix made of light. And this matrix made of light is imbued with divine energy. And I believe that there's a flower of life that exists at every Planck unit within space-time, all in us, throughout us, and everywhere that exists throughout the known space-time. And through the connections of those intersecting circles, which that star fits inside of, you get something called 0-point energy. You get the vesica piscis is also what it's called, where energy is a womb of creation emanating into existence, frequencies and vibration, giving room, giving movement and life to everything that exists in the third dimension. And by that method, I believe that energy itself is coming from one source along with consciousness. And that one source and that one energy center is God, the creator itself. I believe that the actual molder of the programming code for this reality is on the outside of these dimensions, not inside of here with us, but the energy of the creator is in here with us. So the energy is being poured in. Give me an example. The human brain is encased in darkness. So let's go with this as above, so below understanding from ancient Hermetic wisdom, right? So the brain is encased in darkness. It doesn't know anything. Your brain knows nothing unless it has its friends, sensory perception, touch, smell, taste, right? Feel, sight, hearing. So it says to its friends, I want you to go out there and collect me some data. Now the friends go out. The friends, I touched it. My fingers don't know what's going on here.
Right.
I'm not even touching this. This is electromagnetic repulsion because the electrons orbiting the atoms in my fingers are repelling the electrons orbiting the atoms in this mic. So I'm not even touching it, but I'm collecting data. I'm sending this data through my nervous system to my brain. Smelling, hearing, seeing, everything that's going on here is data collection. The data gets sent back to the brain. The brain takes that data and sorts it all out and projects a hologram as to what it believes is going on out here. And we navigate this hologram based off of data collected by our friends. Now, scale that up on the macro. The universe itself is doing the same thing. There's only one energy source. There's only one consciousness. You and I are not separate. We have the illusion of individuality. But what's happening is this frequency that's being sent out is coming out on different point numbers. I'm 99.1, you're 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Right? So we're picking up different slight frequencies from the same source, giving the universe itself its friends to go out and collect data. That's what we're here for. We're here to collect information. Everything we do within this third dimension is all about living our lives, and moment by moment, we're collecting the information and transmitting it back to the source. And it's now understanding what it's like to be Billy Carson, what it's like to be Jeremy, what it's like to be whoever. It's collecting information and learning from it. What is it like to be an atom in a microphone? What is it like to be a blade of grass? That's what's happening here. The universe as a whole is alive and conscious, and it's collecting information. It's living through us subjectively so that it can understand exactly what this third dimension is really all about. And so by that method, that all is the code, that's all information getting sent back to the main brain, which I believe is the God, the Jesus, or the God energy, or whatever anyone wants to call it, the universe, the nature, whatever you want to call it. I believe that's there, and I believe that we are a part of something really huge. You know, we could be a synapse in the brain of a giant figure. You know, it's just really amazing that when you start really thinking about it. But the matrix itself, we know now scientifically, is real. Professor James Gates Jr. analyzed the ether of space-time with a team of mathematicians. And when he analyzed it, they realized that there was something called Adinkra codes hidden within space-time. These symbols are known to the Dogon tribe as Adinkra symbols.
Who's the Dogon tribe?
The Dogon tribe comes out of Mali, Africa.
Okay.
They were the original inhabitants of the land of Kemet before they got overthrown and moved out to Mali, Africa. They knew about Sirius A, B, and C, a trinary star system light years away before modern science knew about it. They knew the orbital periods. They knew every planet in our solar system, the shapes, sizes, and colors of those planets, and the orbital periods as well. And they knew this information from this group of people called the Nomo. They were Anunnaki who came here. They called them the Nomo. That said they were from Sirius B. Sirius B is a failed star, ran out of fuel. We can't see it with the naked eye, but they knew it was there for thousands of years. And so this Dogon tribe has these symbols. They call them Adinkra symbols. And when you turn them into three-dimensional objects, if you take them and put them into a computer and turn them into 3D, there's mathematical codes encoded in there. Those codes are called Adinkra codes, discovered by Professor James Gates Jr. And then those codes are called error-correcting codes. The same exact error-correcting codes that run search engines and web browsers. That's what's running this. So what are we in? We only create what's already in us. So we create searches and web browsers. Why do we create searches and web browsers? Because that's what's inside of our encoding DNA. We're only recreating what the creator already put inside of us. Nothing's ever being new created. And so what we found is that we're living inside of a creation that uses error-correcting codes, fractal holographic codes, which we know from the Mandelbrot fractal mathematics set, and a light matrix of light, like an actual holographic matrix. That's what we're living in. This isn't a microphone. This is light slowed down to a frequency, giving us the illusion of solidity. But there's nothing really here.
I'm never going to look at this mic again the same. It must be, I'm curious to know, Billy, because, like, you know, you've been in this world for 46 years. You're 53 now.
53 years, yeah.
And I'm curious, like, when did it become, I've heard you talk a little bit about this, but I want to dive deeper, because even sometimes for me, it's hard to relate to other people who are still just operating from this frequency of like a 9-to-5 job and not really being fully awake and aware as to what's really happening around us.
Yeah.
Has it been super challenging for you to connect with other people just knowing how much you know?
Yeah, you have to go, you go through this there's stages you go through. So initially you go through the stages where you don't want to talk to anybody, right? And when you're gaining a lot of knowledge and you're really getting a lot of insights and a lot of downloads and a lot of information, And I just kind of walled myself off for a while, which is bad, but it happens. And then you go through a stage where you want to then reconnect because now you want to warn everybody what's going on, what's really happening, right? Now you look like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And so you go through that stage and then you realize, okay, well, some people realize that it's crazy and some don't. When you realize it's crazy, you back off and you ease up and you learn better techniques on how to spread information and teach people things. And then you get to a point where in just standard regular social situations, you begin to learn how to adapt to where you can, I don't like to use the word pretending, but you kind of you get to their level, and you just kind of fit in a little bit here or there. But deep down, you really know there's obviously more grand things to think about and talk about. But you kind of acquiesce a little bit just in those situations. It's kind of like tipping your toe into the
Exactly.
pool, Just drop your toe into the pool a little bit here and there because you still got to live, You still have to have fun. You still have to be social. So there's this balance. I found this very delicate balance. And sometimes I try not to be Superman in a lot of situations. In other words, I try not to act like I know everything. People will come up to me all the time and tell me all these things, and sometimes I'll just act surprised. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I didn't even know that, or wow, I'll look that up. But I already knew it.
That must feel good for someone to share something with
yeah.
you, and you're like, yo, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you have to do that sometimes.
There you go.
You got to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because then you become this know-it-all. And if you become this know-it-all, then people are afraid to ask you questions or afraid to bring things to you and stuff. Sometimes I do get information that I didn't know. But, sometimes I know a lot of it, and I'll make them feel special. Oh, man, this is great. Thank you for bringing this to me. I'm going to take a look at it, whatever. Just so that people you got to make them feel special sometimes. You don't want to be like, man, this guy thinks he knows everything all the time. So, you just you find this balance,
What does your social life look like? Because I know you don't drink alcohol.
No.
Which, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
this because I think alcohol is one of those things that's been completely normalized and even glorified in our society.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of the most destructive poisons that we can consume.
I think it should be illegal.
For the liver, for the brain. So I'd love to just hear your perspective on alcohol too.
Yeah. Well, they call it a spirit for a reason. It's a spirit. And once it gets in you, it's going to do all kind of things to you that you can't control because you lose control of your frontal lobe. And when you lose control of the frontal lobe, now this spirit really takes over your body, and it'll have you doing all kind of silly stuff, stupid stuff, saying things you don't want to say, or saying things you shouldn't say. I witnessed, like I said, my dad my whole life growing up until he died, alcoholic, right? And but I knew him when he was sober a few times, and it was just like, wow, a totally different person. Unfortunately, I was married to a woman in the past that was an alcoholic before, and again, when she wasn't drinking, great person, but when she started drinking, she turned into an absolute beast, right? Anger, outbursts, you name it. Wasn't a good drunk. So this thing takes over. I think that we are living in a society that's it's a capitalistic society, which I'm okay with that. But certain things shouldn't be capitalized. And I think that we as a people on this planet have to come to a point where we say, look, we don't want to put this in our bodies or our kids' bodies. So just ban this. Matter of fact, destroy any factory that's making this stuff. I don't care how many Googles of money people have made off of it. This can't be in our bodies anymore, Just like they're stopping the seed oils, right? So RFK Jr. is stopping seed oils. Now, the seed oil companies are not going to make any money. Well, they got to pivot into something else. They'll find a way to pivot, but we got to stop putting this poison in our bodies. This poison, this alcohol is just toxic poison designed to really destroy us, kill brain cells. Now, we do have neuroplasticity, which means we can make new neural connections, but we're still killing brain cells. And if you don't make any new connections that are worthwhile, you're still getting dumber and dumber. And of course, the amount of visceral fat it puts on your body. And Dr. Amen told me that when you get that kind of fat buildup and it begins to, you begin to become obese, your brain shrinks. And
the bigger your waistline gets, the smaller your brain gets.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why the hell would I want to have a small brain? I got stuff to do here. So the drinking thing, man, it's not worth it. The amount of trouble it gets people in and the situations it puts people in all the time. I just really wish that was something that was completely illegal and banned from the world.
Yeah. And also I'm pretty sure, so we know alcohol destroys the liver, and I'm pretty confident that the liver controls our emotions, specifically with anger. Mm-hmm. Liver and anger have a direct relationship, and there's no coincidence why people who are drinking consistently and they've fallen into that dependence tend to be more on the angry side.
Yeah,
you don't see a
aggressive.
lot of like peaceful,
Yeah.
loving drunk people.
No, not very many. Usually get kind of aggressive, get angry, quick to anger. Yeah, it's just a frustrating thing. And to witness it, especially what they did with the pandemic, making that an essential item. My son had a neighbor, he lived in an apartment building, and his neighbor, unfortunately, got stuck there when everything got shut down in the house with an alcoholic. The wife was fine, but the husband was an alcoholic, and they were fighting, and he was beating her every single day. And I'm going, this is what they gave us? She's literally imprisoned during COVID with this guy who's getting drunk and beating her every day. And I'm going, wow, what kind of society do we have here on this planet? Yeah. Alcohol is something that we definitely don't need.
What are some other things, Billy, that you feel like maybe people are unaware of on a daily basis that they're getting exposed to that are really harming their health, diminishing their ability to connect to the creator, specifically things like fluoride, for example, which was put in the water supply, I believe, right after World War II. And we know that's calcifying our pineal gland.
Yeah.
And we know that it's also a neurotoxin. But people are drinking tap water on a daily basis. They're bathing in tap water every day.
In it.
Right? And that's absorbing into their bloodstream and causing inflammation on the brain as well. So what are some other things that you feel like people should be aware of that are harming their health?
Well, in the black community, a lot of hairspray. Hairspray, super toxic. Hair perm kits, super toxic for black women. Putting the perm in their hair and the hairspray, it's literally laden with cancer products inside of it, cancer ingredients. And when you put that in your body, or when you spray it on your body, you spray it on your hair, it absorbs in through the scalp, and it finds its way into the endocrine system. It finds its way into the lymph system. And the next thing you know, it's starting to create cancers. And so that's one of the biggest killers in the black community is cancers. I mean, a lot of my family have already died from cancer. But when I look back at them, what do they all have in common? The women, all those hairsprays, all those hair treatments, all of those perm kits. It's super toxic for the body.
Is that something that's talked about in the black community? Because it's very common for us to say things like fuck cancer.
Right.
But I think we should be peeling the layers back and actually address the root cause of the things that are driving inflammation on a cellular level that's actually causing the cancer.
Yeah, it's not talked about a lot, but only because the epiphany hasn't come to let's research what we're doing to allow this cancer to thrive. The thought process behind it is that cancer runs in our family. Diabetes runs in my family. No, you don't run in your family. You're not running. You're not exercising. This is why you have diabetes. You're eating the wrong things and you're not exercising. We have to flip the way we think about things and start taking accountability for the diseases versus becoming a victim of the disease. We haven't taken accountability yet. That's the problem that I see there. And the white community, it's the sunscreen that's giving you cancer. Yeah. Sunscreen is one of the most toxic things you can put on your body. It literally gives you skin cancer. And the more radiation hits that lotion, potion, chemical concoction on your skin, the more dangerous it is for your body, and it creates cancerous cells. So sunscreen is one of the most horrible things, obviously. Shampoos with the phosphates and all the other chemical-based products for any race or person is there. Believe it or not, another thing that we have right now, a big problem we have right now today, marijuana. I know there's a lot of marijuana smokers and they love their weed, and I get it. It's okay. If I drank 5 gallons of water right here while I'm on stage today, do you know that I'll die right here? If I drink water is great for you, right? It's great for the body. We're 70% water. But if I drink 5 gallons of water right now, live on camera, I will die right now. If you are smoking weed and you smoke a couple of joints here or there, you're fine.
Yeah.
But if you begin to abuse it, I know some people that are seriously abusing marijuana to the point where they're smoking 10, 15 joints a day, chewing gummies and smoking joints, and they have electric pens and they're smoking, inhaling the THC. These levels of toxicity with the abuse of that level of marijuana is giving you psychosis, infertility, anger outbursts, super paranoia, poor decision-making ability, and it's creating wrinkles and like little holes in your brain that don't get blood circulation to it.
Yeah.
So it's really tearing your brain to shreds. And this stuff that they're smoking now isn't the stuff that my dad smoked when I was a kid. My dad used to grow weed on the chia pet.
Oh, for real?
He to chia.
Yeah, I remember that.
He would put the weed seeds on that thing and grow weed inside of it. Okay. Now they have these weed stores that you go to, these marijuana stores, and you go there and they have these super buds. That this one does this, and this one's got this strength and that strength and all these things. That stuff is crazy toxic. Now, like I said, I haven't drank a soda since I was 8 years old. Okay, but because I don't like the bubbles. The fizz makes me feel like I want to vomit, so I don't drink it. Plus, I saw them pour soda on blood in my street when I was a kid, and I was like, it deletes blood from the street, so I don't really want it now. But
wait, were they like when someone was bleeding?
No,
or?
Somebody got killed in front of my house. He got murdered. And after, this is back when they used to put the white chalk in the road back then. And then the cops left. The body was taken away on the stretcher. And the parents came out to pour Coca-Cola on the tar to get all the blood out off the street. That's the only way to get it up. You could put it on batteries and get the acid off the battery terminals and stuff. So I was like, hell no, I'm not putting that in my body. So, but if I drank, even with me knowing that, if I drank a soda today, maybe even one a few more days or 3 a week, I'm okay.
Yeah.
If I start drinking 4 or 5 cans of soda a day, I'm going to have diabetes, high blood pressure, visceral fat. I'm going to start creating all these health conditions, right? What I'm trying to say is everything within reason.
Right.
So for all my weed smokers, my big followers that love weed, it's okay. I'm not saying don't smoke weed. What I'm saying is everything within reason. Because there are people that I personally know that weed has destroyed their entire life. And they lost, when I say they lost everything over weed.
Yeah. It's really important to say that. I used to be a stoner from ages 17 to 23. Yeah. I grew up in California and then went to school in Oregon. It was just a big part of the culture. Yeah. And, actually my conversation with Dr. Amen, when I learned that smoking weed dramatically reduces blood flow to the hippocampus part of your brain. And the hippocampus is responsible for learning and memory retention. So it's like, if you actually value your brain and your cognition and your ability to focus and be creative, cannabis just isn't the solution that's going to support you in the long term. And like you said, if you're doing it with intention, sporadically, probably not the end of the world.
No.
But it comes back to intention, even with alcohol, actually. Like for Passover, Passover's almost over now, but for the first night of Passover, we do this big Seder. And during the Seder, through the course of the night, we drink 4 glasses of wine, which for me is a lot,
That's
bro.
A lot.
That shit,
4 glasses?
4 glasses, 4 glasses,
Wow.
but it's throughout like 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
And it's very intentional. There's like a blessing and prayer for each glass, and like you're celebrating life with each other. So it felt less harmful and less destructive. I didn't feel amazing the next day, but like everyone was vibrating at a pretty high frequency, like singing, dancing,
Yeah, but you're not doing it every day.
Of course not.
Yeah, that's the difference.
I can't imagine drinking every day, bro.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's mind-boggling.
it's crazy. And the way that it makes you feel the next day.
Yeah, I watched my grandfather drink every single day overproof rum until it gave him bone cancer. And bone cancer is the most painful cancer out there, as far as probably that and ovarian. I would hear him howling and screaming in the middle of the night, when I went to go visit from the bone cancer. And it was just brutal. So, but that was the alcohol, but everything within reason. I mean, somebody wants to go out there and have a couple of drinks socially. It's okay. I'm not your father. But what I am saying is I know that there are some things that we need to evaluate, whether some things we're putting on our skin, things we're inhaling into our bodies, and things like that. So yeah, man, we just need to be more cognitive and aware of this vessel and taking care of it properly and trying to do the best thing for it and promote it to have healing, not to tear it down. This is the only one we get. Yeah. Now, in the future, that you might transfer your mind into another body, like they talk about in the ancient texts, right? They're working on that now in the government with Avatar Project and the 2045 Project. But the majority of the people will never get to pay for that. So take care of your vessel now, because it might be the only one you have. Yeah, and you mentioned RFK. And the positive strides that we're making in healthcare. It's actually crazy. Have you seen the previous director of the Human Health Services, Rachel Levine? Yes.
Who used to be Richard Levine?
Yes.
Who has like 3 fucking chins?
Yeah.
And now You have RFK who's in his 70s and he's ripping like 30 pull-ups, cranking out push-ups. Like this guy's an epitome of health.
The guy's doing push-ups, handstand push-ups. I can't even do a handstand push-up.
And then you have these people on the woke left who are like trying to destroy him and talk shit about him. Yeah. And it's like, this guy actually seems like he has true, genuine, pure intentions to make our country a healthier place.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts right now on the current regime that is in power in America? I don't know how much you go in about politics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't go in too deep, but I'll tell you, I mean, people have seen me, of course, every 4 years I vote for myself, right? So I put my own name on the ballot and drop that inside the box.
I love that.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm initiating and myself, and I'm telling myself that I am the president. I'm the president of myself and my family and my own life, and I don't care who's in there. I'm going to control and do what I want to do based on the parameters I'm given. But I'm going to navigate because the rich always leave breadcrumbs as to how they did it. No matter what laws they put out, they navigate through those same exact laws, and I just follow their path. So, but this administration, of course, has got a lot of controversy. It's very, very polarizing. But at the same time, I have to admit, I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. See, I'm not a person that once I get my mind in one way, I never change it. I see things that were done that I actually agree with. There are some things that were done that I don't agree with, but I do see things that I agree with and would have done myself if I had the power to do it. And with Trump and both with RFK Jr. And even with what Elon was doing with some of the stuff he was uncovering. Now, are those guys perfect and do they make all the greatest decisions ever? Probably not. Nobody is. But some of the stuff I've seen so far, especially with RFK Jr., I'm extremely happy about that. I'm extremely happy about taking men, biological men competing against women in sports. I'm 1,000% for that because I've raised 2 girls, and both of my girls played basketball, and they dedicated their lives to playing basketball. They were both D1 prospects, ESPN ranked, and scholarshiped. But I can only imagine with all that hard work that they put in, all those mornings and evenings and all those tournaments and games they travel to then go there and then be sold out or be left out because maybe this other person that was biologically a man beat them and took the scholarship away from them. I can't even fathom in my brain as a parent how I would feel about that. And I feel bad for the parents that had to experience that already in track and field and other areas and so forth. So I'm glad that that's gone, and I hope that never comes back. That's something that should never happen.
Who do you think's really behind also like this whole transgender movement? Because it just seems to me like that should be one thing that we should all be able to agree upon.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, if you genuinely, you're an adult and this is really what you want to do, okay. But to push this narrative to 7 and 8-year-old children,
it's wrong.
That you can change your gender and you don't even have to tell your parents, by the way, in California.
Yeah, it's wrong.
And Gavin Newsom is just making chaos ensue. And it's absolutely insane. But it's crazy that we can't all come together and unite on topics like this. Like a biological man just should not be able to compete in high-level sports with a female.
No.
Like,
you need to have a transgender league. Somebody needs to make a transgender league. So they can be in the Olympics. They can be in track and field, boxing, basketball, whatever they want, swimming. We can make a sport. They can have a sport for everything they want to do, but they have to make their own league. Their own, it can't be mixed with biological men or women. Their own separate league, just them. And then they can compete against each other. That would be fair. I'm not against people who want to become transgender. I really don't care. What I do care about is what you were talking about, when it's now being pushed upon the kids. My daughter, one of my daughters, she went to 4 colleges and still never got her degree, and still doesn't know what she want to do for a living. And I bought books for this, biology. I bought books for this science. I bought books for her to do this with broadcasting. She changed her major like I'm changing my shoes. And she was already in the 20s. So you trying to tell me a kid that's 13 and 12 and 9 and 10 can make decisions about changing their gender, and most kids can't even figure out what they want to major in college? So something's wrong there. we have to understand that we cannot allow people with agendas to target our children. Now, if our children grow up and become a fully grown adult and make their own decision, then that's perfectly okay. But they still shouldn't be able to compete against biological women, and vice versa. I just think that there's an agenda there. I'm not sure who's behind this agenda, but it seems like an agenda of depopulation. Because if I go out to an island like Bora Bora, right, which I love going to Bora Bora. If I go to Bora Bora and let's say the island was completely uninhabited, and I dropped off about 70 mix of men, women, heterosexual. If I come back in 100 years, it'll be a thriving island, a thriving civilization.
Right.
If I drop off 100 transsexuals, transgenders on that island and come back in 100 years, I'll see a whole bunch of graveyards, right? A whole bunch of tombstones. So it's a depopulation agenda. It's an agenda, in my opinion, that is all about reducing population or slowing down the population acceleration. Because when you now start targeting kids, you're targeting the future, and you're trying to stop something from happening. You're creating a new timeline that doesn't even exist yet, and then you're altering the path of a civilization. So, like I said, there's nothing wrong with being transgender. I have relatives that were born gay. I mean, I love them, and that's where they were born. Because when I was a kid, and they were a kid. They were gay when I was a kid.
Yeah,
it's normal to me, but they aren't transgender or whatever. But they just are, just gay. But the thing I'm saying is, like, I understand, but at the same time, not the kids. Don't give me these books. They would be pissed off if we had a heterosexual day. It would be offensive to them. Or if we pushed, kids having sex at the age of 10, heterosexually.
You know what was crazy, Billy? Sorry to cut you off, but I'm pretty sure last Easter, which we're recording this 2 days before Easter Sunday, I'm pretty sure last Easter also, Joe Biden tweeted out, like, Happy Transgender Visibility Day.
Okay. That's interesting.
On Easter, bro. Yeah. Which is like, I don't celebrate Easter, but I know it's a very sacred day for many people.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Oh, my God,
I just want to push it. Somebody's paying a lot of money to push it. Somebody behind the scenes is
probably
paying
Soros,
a lot.
Bro.
It's probably George Soros. They're paying a lot of money to push that thing. But, like I said, I know people that are transgender, and I love them. I know people that are gay, I love them. I just don't think that anything should be, it don't matter, it doesn't have to even be transgenderism. It could be anything shouldn't be forced on our kids that I feel doesn't give them a chance to make they don't even know who they are yet to make a good decision about whether they should do it or not. It would be like letting the military come and try to recruit a 6-year-old or 7-year-old kid into the military at the age of 6 or 7, to brainwash them and to like groom them to becoming a Navy SEAL or something. I mean, I wouldn't want that for my kid. Let my kid grow up and figure out what they want to do for a living.
I was always a little, one of the things that confuses me about that whole subject area with the biological men competing in women's sports is like, where are the feminists at, bro? Mm-hmm. Where are the feminists who are supposed to have women's backs, who are protecting women's rights? Like, where are the feminists? They should be the ones that are most upset. That are most supportive of women, yet they are completely silent, which is also very, very confusing.
Bizarre. It's bizarre. It's a whole bizarre thing, It's really strange, man. I don't know. We got a lot of growing up to do as human beings on this planet, just figuring out like who we are, what we're here to do. And these agendas are they're mind-boggling because you almost can't conceive, I mean, when I was a kid, there was no way anyone can tell me that someone was going to come to my school in elementary and give me a book on changing my sex into a female. I mean, you can barely say damn on TV back then. I don't think you could say ass back then in the 70s yet. But going from where I started out with TV till now and what they're pushing now, a lot of movies, they're all agenda-based, They always have to add in some other stuff to make, And
Snow White.
These are kids' shoes. I mean, these are kids' shows. And, you're taking kids there to see this stuff, and they're sitting there, and they're thinking, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. So they're pre-programming the kids at their young minds, like I said, between the age of 1 and 7, and they're putting that program code in there so that when they grow up, they feel it's natural.
It actually comes back to our previous conversation too about healthcare and big pharma, right? Because the best thing for a healthcare company, a best thing for a pharmaceutical company is a sick child,
Yeah.
right? They're 6 or 7 years old. They're struggling to sit still in class. So we're going to label them with ADHD, hand them Adderall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That Adderall is going to cause a whole host of other issues.
Oh, yeah.
It's frying the dopamine centers. They're probably going to become addicted to another substance as they become an adult.
Yep.
And more importantly, they're being disconnected from their truest self. And that's what's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is like their soul and their essence is not being nurtured.
Yeah. It's crazy. They're diagnosing babies with depression now. I mean, how can you diagnose a baby with depression and then give prescription medication to the baby? They're prescribing narcos and all these things for babies now. And I'm going, what kind of parent? See, this is where I was talking about earlier. The parents have to take back control. At some point, we have to stop blaming all these, these agenda-based systems and all these oligarchs. We have to say, look, we got to look in the mirror, man. We're screwing up because we're actually acquiescing to them, and we are approving them either through going along with it or our silence. And at some point, we have to say, wait a minute, what are you going to give my kid now? You're going to give my kid what? No, let me research this a little bit more. Oh, no, he or she needs to take this. No, I'm going to tell you what, you work for me. So you shut up and sit down, and I'll be back when I make up my mind, or maybe I won't be back. But you're not going to tell me what to give my kid. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to give my kid based on my research. We got to get to that point. Until we get to that point of aggressiveness and like putting them in their place, we're going to let them dominate our generations of kids and turn them into drug addicts.
How old are your kids, by the way?
34, 33, 30, 25, and my stepson would be 12.
Oh, wow. You started young. Your first one was at 19?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I guess if you could go, like, let's say your kids were growing up right now, they're in high school, getting ready for college. Would you actually pay for your kids' college now? Because I feel like higher education in America has just been brainwashed by this whole Marxist agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about college is it doesn't teach you how to make money. You just got to go in there to become a parrot. So I told my kids early on, I said, I'm not a penny for college. Bobby, I bought her books because she ended up losing her scholarship because she tore her ACL. So I felt bad for her. So I bought her books, but that was about it. Everything else was on the scholarship. And just the books weren't covered. But I told them early on I wasn't going to pay for college. I said, if you want to go to college, you're going to get a scholarship in academics or athletics or both. And that's what they did, for the ones that went. Because I already knew that it's, listen, who was the first quantum physicist? What degree did he have or she have? They got a degree from the universe, right? I studied so much information as a kid. I knew more than some of the teachers that that were teaching me in school. And I used to correct them all the time. And so it's just like, I don't think college is a mandatory thing. If you wanted the experience to go, it's okay, but it's not going to teach you how to get money. It'll give you some information that teach you how to be a parrot.
Yeah. You spoke also when we were talking about like oligarchs and stuff and people who have a lot of influence. A lot of people think of someone like Elon Musk, right? In today's era right now. And I heard you talk a little bit about Tesla. And also you've been talking a lot about 0-point energy. I personally don't fully understand what 0-point energy is.
Yeah.
Can you give us like a brief explanation of that and why you think that is the future?
Sure. So 0-point energy is energy that exists at every Planck unit within space-time. Planck unit is the smallest measurement of space or distance that you can measure. Now, if you take something called the flower of life symbol, which is super ancient. It goes back tens of thousands of years.
It's on this chocolate. I need to show you. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
The flower of life, man, it's powerful. Okay. So the flower of life symbol, when you look at it and open it up, you can fit 64 tetrahedrons within the flower of life symbol.
Okay.
Those tetrahedrons are pyramids, but we're talking about 3 dimensions now, right? So we're talking about taking the flower of life, turning it into a 3-dimensional structure.
Okay.
Loaded with 64 tetrahedrons. Where the tetrahedrons intersect and touch in the inner area is called the vector equilibrium.
Okay.
Within the vector equilibrium, you have unparalleled, unlimited power. And that exists all around us. It's all here. All the energy we need for everything is right here. We don't have to plug anything in. We don't have to recharge anything. We don't have to go get gasoline. We're living inside of the energy. We just haven't been able to tap it. Now, we, meaning the general population, some inventors have tapped into it. They have been killed or unalived, depending on how you want to say it. Some of their inventions have been suppressed. There have been some that did get patented, but then they were eminent domain by the government and taken away because they would disrupt the system, the status quo. So the technologies actually exist. It's just that we haven't been given access to any of it. So we shouldn't be plugging things into outlets. Everything should be free. Nikola Tesla discovered how the Great Pyramid was generating electricity. He duplicated that with something called the Wardenclyffe Tower. It was partly funded by J.P. Morgan. When he built this Wardenclyffe Tower, it tapped into the energy from the Earth and the energy in the atmosphere, and it was able to amplify that energy and transmit it around the region. He was able to turn on light bulbs. He was able to also transmit sounds and even images via this technology. And then when J.P. Morgan realized that it couldn't be metered, he decided to destroy it, so he destroyed it. The thing is, it can be metered. I know. It could have been metered if you just start thinking creatively. He didn't think outside the box. Everything can be monetized in a way, but he didn't think outside the box, so he destroyed it. Right now, we shouldn't have anything plugging into any walls anywhere. Everything should be wireless. But because of that, that set us back a couple 100 years, because it's been 100 years since Tesla.
When you say wireless, though, wouldn't that present also an issue of like Bluetooth connection and EMFs, or no?
No, this energy seems to be very clean and free-flowing.
Okay.
And natural. Like right now, we have a lot of energy flowing through us, and there is some technology now that can capture all the EMFs or the electromagnetic, the microwave frequencies from our devices right now and turn that into power. But what Tesla was doing was something totally different. And so it wouldn't affect us. It appeared to be, at least, that it wasn't going to affect us in a negative way. What is affecting us are these microwaves that we're using with these cell phones. They're horrible for us.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Fuck, I should have brought you one. So we have these gold-plated that we put on to block all the EMFs.
Nice. I have a similar product, too.
Yeah.
It's a quantum product, probably similar. But yeah, those work. I've tested those things before. I've tested them. The one I have, I've tested. It's great for blocking the EMFs. But we're living in an EMF world now instead of a free energy world. Eventually, we'll get there. But like I said, we've been set back 200 years. So 100 years now have gone. We have 100 years more to go.
And then what about, I've also heard some stuff about like the danger of actually driving Teslas. Like I think they're emitting EMFs when you're in there because of the charging, but I haven't really dove super deep into that research. And Tesla is probably the most popular car on the road right now.
Yeah,
like you see them everywhere.
Yeah, super high EMF. I've seen people testing them, driving them, coming to red lights, stopping, just parking, just testing it in different ways. Idling, super dangerous EMFs for the body. You're driving in an encasement of cancer-causing frequencies the whole time. The second thing is those Tesla cars are very unstable. They create a lot of fires. You don't see a lot of these fires on the news, but they literally burn people's houses down in the middle of the night. The battery packs have rubber seals on them where the cabling inserts into them. Sometimes that wears out just from normal heating and cooling and dehydration of the rubber seal. And then water, if it can seep into the battery, fire. It's an instant fire. I've seen lots of Teslas catch on fire, random fires. It's a great concept and idea trying to do this clean energy thing. However, you're not really free energy because when you plug it in, you're using oil. I mean, the electricity that's going to charge the car is coming from a power station down the street that's using oil to power, to get the power. This factory has a bigger carbon footprint than pretty much almost any factory on the planet to create these cars. A huge carbon footprint for the factory, which is utilizing a lot of oil, right? And so you get the illusion of being green, but you're not really green. And then also, there's two more problems. The first problem is, which is not the worst, this is the second to worst, is that these batteries, they're super toxic, for the environment. So when these things are decommissioned, they destroy the water table. and there's no way to destroy these batteries and no way to recycle them. I'm sorry, no way to recycle the batteries because there are so many different versions of the batteries now. They don't have a system to recycle. So they're creating toxicity in the soil of the earth. You can't really do it. And when they go to the dump, and if it rains too hard, they all catch on fire. But the worst thing, the absolute worst thing, is the cobalt and lithium needed to make the batteries. Those are coming from forced child labor mines in the Congo and other areas where they claim that we've done everything we can to source this stuff. No, you haven't, because it's still right now. I have people who live there in the Congo. They're still getting this cobalt and lithium from these mines, little kids going down. Because why? Because their kids can fit in the holes. And they're clawing at the earth all day with their bare hands to bring up this cobalt and lithium. They have collapses, they get crushed, and they're being worked in some of them until they die, so that we can have iPhone screens and that we can have these batteries and these electric cars and everything else, and these tablets and so forth. These kids are literally powering the entire technological revolution of screens with their bare hands. These are illegal mines that still have hundreds of thousands of people working them on a day-by-day basis. Women are out there with a baby on their hip and using the other free hand to claw at the earth to get this stuff. And the problem we have with this is when one militant group decides to say, you know what, we're going to just take over the mines and hold the world ransom. And that's going to drive prices of things through the roof, and that's going to make stocks collapse. And someone's going to show up at one of these places, and they're going to hold those mines ransom, and it's going to create a global situation. And then and only then will they then look to alternative means of getting this ore. But right now, it's a major problem.
Dude, I can't even imagine. I'm honestly shocked that hasn't already happened.
I know, but it's going to happen. Trust me.
So that's where Tesla is getting pretty much all of their cobalt and lithium.
Yeah, not all of it. They're getting it from several places, but a lot of it's coming from there. Yeah, a lot of it. There's been a lot of lawsuits and through the, what do you call that court, the global court, I forget what the tribal courts. I mean, they're all, up in an uproar about it. It's not just Tesla, but it's Apple and a lot of other companies are all involved. I did a video years ago about this with all the logos of all the companies that were in the news about the fact that they were trying to bring awareness to this, and nobody wants to hear it. Nobody cares. Little black kids dying in the mine or whatever, just next. But that's what's happening. And it's really unfortunate. It's very sad. And, it really hurts me because every time I got to use my screen on my phone, I realize some kid clawed at the earth for this. It sucks.
Do you use an iPhone?
I have a Samsung. I use the S25. I'm a Samsung guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a left-handed Virgo.
You're September 4th, right?
Yeah.
I'm September 10th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not surprised at all that you don't use an iPhone.
Yeah, I don't use iPhones.
So what's the reason for that? Why don't you use an iPhone?
A couple of reasons. One is I have a lot more control on the Samsung phone or the Android phone platform. I can control it. I have a lot more control of what I put on the phone, what I take off the phone. I can use my phone as a storage device. I can add apps to my device that I write myself. Right? I can control a lot more of the security functions and features or the monitoring features, where iPhone's kind of locked and sealed and you really can't do that unless you break it, then you lose a warranty. And then also the operating system for me, the way my brain works, it works better with the Samsung versus the Apple device.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think Elon, going back to Tesla, do you think Elon Musk is a net positive for humanity?
That's interesting to think about. So he's done some things that are helping people, right? So even like people hate the Neuralink because he's going to be, turning people into robots. But at the same time, there are people that are, getting sight back, being able to control their prostheses, being able to communicate with computers and talk for the first time, and all these incredible things, see for the first time, hear for the first time. So I think it's going to be a revolution in health and science that way. The things you have to worry about is when someone in a position of power takes that same tech, if he gets a military contract, and all of a sudden it goes dark, right? Because every person that comes up with great ideas for tech, eventually, not all of them, but a lot of them sell out to the military, then they turn into military weaponized projects. I just hope that doesn't happen, I'd like to see him take his electric cars and turn them into hydrogen-powered cars, make an H model, I think that the models he have now aren't really super clean. They have the illusion of being green, but with his intelligence and his means, his financial means, he can easily convert that into hydrogen fuel cells, which would really burn clean and would really be green, would recharge probably 10 to 15 times faster, require less stations, and also be less toxic for the environment, and then to also find a way to source or find a different source of the materials needed for the actual fuel cell process. If you can use electrolysis to extract hydrogen from water, you might not even need the lithium and the cobalt. We have to become more creative as futurists and thinkers on how we want to develop and see the world in the future, and not just think about right now and how much profit we can make now. We have to start thinking for the future generations, because what we're doing now is like a butterfly effect that's going to affect people in 100 years. So we have to be able to be a futuristic thinker and say, well, if we keep going along the path that I've created here, which has been great for now, it's going to have a bad spot down there. Let's start slowly changing so that by the time we get to that point in the future, everything is great for those people. We need to start thinking like that as a civilization.
Yeah. What is also something, maybe I asked you at the beginning, but I'm curious to know, because you talk about this stuff every day for hours a day, right? And that is what you're passionate about, and sometimes it gets redundant. Like I talk about, health, wellness, psychedelics, all of these things, and I love it. And it's also fun sometimes to talk about new things and bring those to the surface. Are there any new subject matters, new topics that you've kind of been diving deep into recently that maybe you haven't shared so openly yet that you're really passionate about?
Well, let's see. I've been working on a project with Terrence Howard for tangential flight, his flight system. It's real. I know he's been on a lot of podcasts, and people have tried to ridicule him and try to say that his technology is just something he fabricated in his brain, and his patents are just fabricated patents. I've seen the technology. I've seen the flying device, and one of the flying devices, one of the linchpin flying devices, and I'm really excited to help him promote that, to raise more funds to build out the bonding of those tangential flight machines. It's real technology. That's going to be a huge project. I think his mind is brilliant. The guy knows exactly what he's talking about. Recently, he was on the PBD podcast, and they brought in a quantum physicist.
Yeah.
Who then
from NASA,
from NASA, who then backed up. Well, he's actually right, which is good. And I want to be there for him, to support him. I've been supporting him for a long time, way before a lot of this stuff started coming out, just from some interviews he did years ago. And he was dropping some science on a red carpet, and I made podcasts and videos about that, and it went viral. And he called me and thanked me for that. And so now I'm really excited about working with him on this project and bringing the world a new type of flight technology that they've ridiculed and laughed at. And when they see that it's real and it works, they're going to have to then humble themselves and inside, or at least internally, say, man, I apologize. I was wrong. This guy was right the whole time. So I'm excited about that. Other than that, I'm looking forward to going to Egypt this October and going down into some new underground areas where there are some massive underground labyrinths that go on for miles. And I'm going to take some people down there so they can see the underworld that they've been talking about. It's not a myth. It's not about going to some spiritual domain. They were talking about under the ground, like literally underworld. They weren't talking about some mystical place. We're going to take people down there and show them some things that's going to blow them away.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Dustin and I might have to join on that. We'll include the link for that as well in the show notes.
Cool.
What are the type of people that you attract in your community? I feel like it's just the widest spread of different people.
We've got people that are into astrophysics. We've got scientists. We've got people that are into spirituality. We have people into ancient civilizations, people into metaphysics, just a wide range. I mean, the whole gambit. That's why I love what I do. And why I love the knowledge I've gained over the years, because I'm able to relate to so many people on so many different levels. And it's not just, some people are kind of, they only have a certain level of knowledge in one area, and it's really good, but that's the box that they're in. They really can't expand out of that box. I wrote a book on financial literacy. I write articles for Entrepreneur Magazine, okay? I wrote books on ancient civilizations, bestseller. The financial book was a bestseller. I wrote books on science. I wrote a science book called Fractal Holographic Universe, #1 in fractal mathematics, #1 in science and philosophy, ahead of Michio Kaku. So I can expand into all these areas, and I can talk on all these different topics, and it really attracts a lot of people to me in various different areas. So I have a huge following across a wide span of topics.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, because I'll never be bored.
So one of the things I think people struggle with the most now is constantly having their attention diverted, right? We live in an era where people are addicted to distraction.
Yeah.
And focus has become like the most valuable asset and skill to cultivate.
Yeah.
And when I look at you and the way you show up and your commitment, your consistency, I'm like, this dude is fucking focused, bro. You know what I'm saying? So what are some things that you do on a consistent basis, whether it's like your morning routine or your evening hygiene or your nutrition, that help you just stay dialed in?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I do is I'm an early riser, you know. I like to get up around 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, meditation, you know, get up, get cleaned up, and then 5 o'clock, I do a different kind of, the first meditation I do is for manifestation. The second meditation I do is for just allowing myself to get filled with the energy from the universe. And so I call it my cosmic cup, you know, and I do that meditation. And then I lay out all my to-dos for the day. Or the to-do list usually might have a few to-dos from the previous day or the previous 2 days. I kind of move them over and access and analyze my day and find out in what order am I going to tackle these things today. And then from the time I figure that out, I usually get myself a cup of coffee and a glass of water, and I come back in and I start knocking things down. Boom, 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 boom. By the time it hits 12 o'clock noon, I've done the work of 10 men already, okay? A lot of that might include research, it might include documentation or paperwork, it might include, some stuff I have to do, admin stuff for the business. Whatever it is, I'm knocking that out. I'm organizing my teams as well, and I'm keeping them organized with a digital checklist that they have to check off. And every time they check something off that they've done, I'm getting a notification on that. I use Basecamp. So every time they've accomplished something, I get a notification. That makes me feel gratitude inside. It makes me feel like, okay, these people are working. I know this is done. I know that is done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So organizing the teams, getting those checks, those checks in, knowing that things are being done, and then being able to just also take a little bit of time for myself. So I got to go to the gym, got to work out. I try to go outside to get a little sunlight. If I can walk for 15, 20 minutes every day, if there's good sun, I go outside and get in the sun, 15, 20-minute break. If I'm sitting for more than 15 minutes, I get up and move around. Even if I got to go work in a different room or another area, I'm moving. I don't want to sit still. I don't want to be stagnant. I keep my body moving. Get myself a really good lunch, some nice protein. And then in the afternoon, I typically try to recap my day and see everything that I've done. Is there anything else that I'm missing or can do, or am I on a podcast? What does my schedule look like today? And then also masterminding. I like to take about 2 hours a day to mastermind future projects or future things, or how can I enhance something already there? I look at systems that are already in place and I figure out, can I restructure this? Can it be more efficient? You know, all of that, it becomes a lifestyle, you know, it becomes a lifestyle, really.
How many people are on your team now?
11.
Yeah. You mentioned something in a previous podcast I listened to where you were explaining really diving deep into your purpose and the importance of that, and really the energy exchange between providing value and also becoming financially independent and financially free in that process, which I think is really powerful, the way that you spoke about it. So I'd love for you to take a moment to do that, because I think that's probably one of the other root causes of people's depression is they're disconnected from their purpose. They're in this matrix of working a job that they fucking hate. They're completely stripped away from their passions. They're disconnected from why their soul is here, right? Their unique gifts. So what would you say to someone who's really looking to step into a more purposeful life and might have some limitations about financial abundance?
Yeah, I think that, I started an academy called the Wealth Frequency Academy. I just started it, the Wealth Frequency Academy. It's just launching. It's brand new. And the reason why I did that is because exactly what you just said. The number one question I get asked out of everything that I know is, how can I find my purpose? How do you know what it is? I can't find my purpose. How can I find what I'm passionate about? That's the number one question I get. So I'm going to make a wealth frequency program that's going to teach people about finding their passion. And now when they find it, I'm going to show them how to maximize it within that program. But what I can tell you is, the basics, and really this is enough to apply now, and it can change your life. Most people don't know who they are and what they want and what their passion is because it was stripped away in school. Sit down, shut up, do this, walk in this straight line, don't go over here, don't go to the left, don't go to the right, don't touch that, put that down. All that is programming us to be robots, and they strip away and rob us of our creativity and all of our ideas and our, all of the things that would make us who we truly might have become get snatched away from us in the grade school era, unfortunately. So a person grows up now, age 1 to 7, they've been basically shunned and shut down. So now, of course, we don't know who we are, what we want to do. Everything's been taken away from us. We can't even act out or have fun or speak. So the first thing a person has to do is get out a piece of paper. Like you have a piece of paper there, right? Just make a line down the middle first. And on the left-hand side, they got to write down everything that they think they would like to do or can do very well. Mm-hmm. Things that they can do now well, things they would love to do, things they're interested in learning or would be interested in learning, and just sit there and spend an hour writing down all these things. A lot of people have never spent any time doing that. They just go, I don't know what my passion is. You just said that within that. Me saying that took less than 2 seconds. That's the amount of research they've done on their passion, 2 seconds. Have you spent an hour or 2 or 3 writing down things to figure out what you might be good at? You probably just haven't put enough thought into it yet. Once you get that left side full of all these things, now you jump to the right side of the line, and now you start saying, okay, put this in order. Okay, this would be above this, and this thing here would be above this. Okay, this I would do, but I would need to learn more about it, so I'll put it down here. So now you're putting it in order, right, in terms of what you know, what you like the best, what you can do, what you can achieve easily, what you can learn, what you'll need to go to school for, whatever it is. So now you're organizing this list of passions. Once you get the list of passions organized, then you can cut it down to your top 10, top 5, top 3, maybe even your top 1 might pop right out at you. So now you've really isolated what the passion actually is. And because you've done that, now you have an idea or a direction you can go in. The next thing I tell people is research what that passion is and how to become the best at it. Because you have to become one of the top people within that passion, whatever it is. If it's being an engineer, if it's being a videographer, if it's being a public speaker, if it's being a musician, or whatever it is, you've got to become one of the best in that area. You have to be, when you show up, people got to say, this guy's an expert, right? The next thing you have to do is find a need for that passion in the world. In other words, find a need for it. If you're an engineer, find people that need your engineering level of information or technology. Find people that need your work. Find people, if you're a podcaster, find people platforms that would love to have you on there. Whatever it is, find a need for the passion. Find groups of genres of people that want to hear what you have to say on your podcast. Once you find a need for the passion, the next thing is you have to provide that passion at a very high level. At the most elite level you could possibly provide it to that source, that business, that person, that group, you provide the passion. The side effect to you doing that is money in your bank account. If you're focused on, if I do this, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to get all this money.
Right.
No, you're not going to get a lot of money. If you can provide your passion to someone who needs it at a high level, money will be attracted to you. You'll draw it in like a magnet. It'll be in your bank account. You won't have to even think about it. If you're focusing on the money, you never get to do exactly what you want to do the way you'd like to do it the best way. So the secret to making money is to find your passion, all right, is to then find a need for that passion in the world, fulfill that passion, and then money will be the side effect in your bank account. That's the formula for making money and not feeling like you're actually doing any work. If you can do that every single day, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, you're an embodiment of that too.
Yeah.
And I would add one thing, and that's also for you, and I think, again, you embody this so well, is you used every single obstacle and adversity and challenge in your life to transmute the trauma into impact, into part of your mission here. You know what I mean? Because it's very easy when you're growing up and your dad is addicted to drugs, drinking, and you're not really getting the love, nurturing, support that a child really desires and deserves, you could have easily just gone down the other path of falling into the violence and the addiction. But you chose to really just take sovereignty over your life, bro, at such a young age.
I was fortunate to have those positive thoughts or alternative thoughts that came to me instead of the other thoughts I was able to say to myself, that's not the life that I want. I want something else. You know, I remember my dad came to me one day, and at this point, I was paying $400 a month for rent at the age of 13.
Oh shit!
Now
Is
back
this in
then,
Opelika?
no, that was by then it was Norland, Miami,
Okay.
Norland, yeah. And at that time, that's probably like almost $1,800 today, you know. But I gave him the money, but he had already took the money and spent it on dope or whatever he did with it. And by the evening, he wanted another $400. And I was like, I gave you that money this morning. I'm not giving you another $400. And they got into this big, loud fight, this big, loud argument, I should say. And he pulled out a gun and put it right to my forehead, you know. And I was like, this is the last time he's gonna see me, you know, in this house. And so I bailed out. I left that night and never came back. I moved out when I was 16 because of that. And I had to make a hard choice because I let my brothers and sisters were there, and I was like their protector and everything. But at that point, I was like, it's like when the young lions or the big king of the pack of the pride looks at the younger lions and like, you got to go. When he did that to me, I had to get out of there, you know. So I left. But I could have turned that. That could have been a dark night. That could have been a night where I went and got my gun. And we're going to have a gun battle, or I could have wrestled it out of his hand and I could have killed him with it, you know. A lot of things can happen, but I was able to separate myself from my thoughts. And I was like, yeah, for me, this is not a moment to react. I could have went into instantaneous reaction mode, which most people would have done. I didn't go into reaction mode. I went into thought mode. I went into deciphering the situation mode. I projected out future outcomes that can happen instantaneously, and I chose the one that was right for me. And that's what people have to learn how to do.
Have you studied Kabbalah at all?
Yeah.
Because you some of the things you say like indirectly
Yeah.
are so aligned with Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about pausing and not being a slave to reactivity.
Yes.
That's like one of the most important skills for humans to learn, I feel like,
Yeah.
is not to attach yourself
Yeah.
to every single thought, because you're gonna have fucked up thoughts.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
hard.
like-
It's hard.
Yeah.
Because you can get triggered. You know, there are things, but you have to. It takes a lot of work. You know, and I find that over time, there's less things that you can have outbursts about, or you can take that space. But there's still things that even today, will get to me eventually if it happens enough. But I saw that over time, though, the amount of things I didn't react to is massive compared to the amount of things I actually did react to. So it's this process of working and alchemically converting yourself. And yeah, Kabbalah is a powerful thing.
What's one thing that really, to this day, still triggers you?
One of the things that still triggers me is if somebody accuses me of doing something that I know I didn't do. And the reason why that trigger is kind of still there, this is one thing I haven't worked on in any of my counseling sessions with my counselor and so forth, is because I was the oldest kid. And so I always got in trouble for everything that they did, whatever, and it was for stupid stuff. But I got beat with extension cords, tree branches, belt buckles. You know, I still got scars on my hip from the belt buckle.
Fuck.
And so that's like embedded in me, you know? So when somebody starts making accusations against me of things aggressively, of things that I know for a fact I didn't do, that I can handle it for a little while, but if it keeps coming up, but then I can get triggered from that. That's something that still, till this very day, is hard for me. I'm working on it. I'm gonna work harder on it. I have to go back now. I haven't done that particular shadow work yet, but that's one of the shadow work areas I'm definitely gonna look into working on soon, because it's still there. But it is linked to me as a kid, getting in trouble for my siblings. I mean, any little tiny thing. One time, one of my father came home one day and he said somebody ate a cookie off his windowsill. And he blamed it on me because I'm the oldest. And he kicked us out of the house in the hood. And we had to sleep outside that night. I had to put my siblings on the floor and I had to cover them up.
When were you sleeping in your car in Aventura, I think you mentioned? Because it's funny, I slept in my Honda CRV for 8 nights, like in 2015 when I was going through some rough shit in like North Miami Beach.
Oh, wow.
So I was or actually, it was at this hostel in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I was actually working at the JCC in Aventura.
Okay.
So when was that in your life?
That would have been in the 90s, because my ex at the time had just gotten pregnant with my oldest. And so, that was a crazy time, man. That was literally a crazy time.
You were 19, 20?
Yeah, about 20, 21. I had a No, yeah, 19 going on 20. Yeah, it was September. Yes, 19 going on 20. And I had a car that got repossessed. And I didn't have enough money for a car. I knew I needed a car at least. So I had to go put a car on layaway at Anything on Wheels in Fort Lauderdale. It's gone now, but it was a place where you can literally go there and put a car on layaway and pay like 15, 20 bucks a week.
Yeah.
I paid for the car in course of like maybe a month and a half. $350 car, by the way. A Buick LeSabre, 1978. A Buick LeSabre Limited with rust all over the back area.
You were sleeping in that shit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sleeping in that car. And I would go to Wendy's because Wendy's, I went to the drive-thru just by accident, not even knowing. I just wanted to ask for some bread. And the lady said, you can always come here at any Wendy's drive-thru and you can always get a bun and a cup of water for free.
Oh, wow.
And so I was going there. Unfortunately, I had to go there, almost every day to get a bun and some water. But fortunately, somebody lent me $30 and I took $10 for gas, which now, back then would last for a couple weeks. The other 20 I took and got quarters from the little motel parking lot from the guy who ran the motel that I was sleeping in this parking lot. He gave me the $20 in quarters, and I went to the payphone right on the bottom of William Lehman Causeway where it hits the road down there. There was a payphone there, right at a red light. So I had to wait for the cars to stop. When the cars would stop, I would call from the Yellow Pages real quick and set appointments for myself to go on marketing campaigns and go out to meet businesses and business owners so I could try to sell my marketing campaigns. And then hang up when the cars start going again because I didn't want them to know I was outside. And I got myself some appointments. I went on those appointments. I closed some deals. I got some upfront payments. I got myself off the street, got back into an apartment, eventually got back into a nice car, eventually got into a house. I mean, just the recipe is a recipe, Once you know the recipe to success, you can come back with a pocket full of quarters like I did because the recipe can be applied to any business you do.
I want to finish off with a couple rapid fire questions, just that I think will hopefully give people some value and also be fun for me to ask you. Someone's watching this right now and they're like, yo, this shit sounds really good, but I still feel like I'm just stuck in it. So how does someone escape the matrix in 2025?
Oh, the first thing you have to do, number one, is stop scrolling. The scrolling is destroying you. It's eating you alive. And I know this because I got employees, and some of them admit to me that they get caught. I'm like, how come this ain't done? They get caught scrolling. The scrolling is like the biggest distraction going right now. Scrolling is like a time warp. It'll go 2 hours, 3 hours, 4. Before you know it, the day is gone, and all you've done is scrolled all day. Stop the scrolling. Put a timer on your watch or on your phone or something or whatever you use, a notification in your calendar. Give yourself 15 minutes and then stop. You got to get to grinding. You got to get to work. Work on yourself, not scrolling through all this useless content and information online that's not going to put any money in your pocket. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to enhance you in any kind of way, shape, or form. It's mostly going to probably give you toxicity and poison and darkness because a lot of stuff that's on those scrolls is just ridiculous, stupid stuff that we don't need in our spirit,
Yeah.
They got to stop scrolling.
That's the number one thing.
That's the number one thing.
I agree. I mean, it's crazy how much time and I think in this next generation when we have regrets from our deathbed, I think the number one regret we're gonna have on our deathbed is like, I wish I didn't spend so much fucking time scrolling and watching other people live their life instead of me living my own.
There are people out there that are more qualified than me, and I'm less qualified than them, and I'm living a life that they would love to live.
Yeah.
But why aren't they living my life and they're more qualified than me? Because they're distracted with other things and they're too worried about things going on that don't really matter instead of focusing on themselves.
Shit, man. Sometimes I'll get maybe 10 to 15 minutes where I'm like, yo, what the fuck did I just do these last 15 minutes?
Me too.
Like I'm lucky it doesn't go beyond that, but even so, like especially if it's in the evening time and it's disrupting the circadian rhythm and all of those things. If you had one book to give every human on earth, what would it be?
I would give them the Emerald Tablets.
Yeah.
It's a very controversial book in terms of the age. I believe it's 36 to 38,000 years old. Some people don't, but that's okay. Some people don't believe that the tablets ever existed, but this is an amazing writing that we know, in my opinion, at the very, very oldest, or at the very newest, 1920s, at the very newest. But the oldest, I believe, is super ancient because it aligns with a lot of stuff, including the stuff they found underneath the pyramids recently. But the reason why I would give them that book is because that book is literally talking about mankind beginning to recognize who he truly is, the power that's within him, and to how to address the darkness within us and alchemically convert the darkness in us to light, and to become the light, be the light, see the light, show the light, and to bring the light to the world. And I think the message in there is so powerful because it's really about uplifting humanity. It's about getting to the next level consciously, and it's about learning how to love everyone and help everyone.
And finally, if you had one message that you could put on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it be?
Forgive yourself.
Whew.
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand. That's one of the best things you can ever do. A lot of us are waiting for someone else to come and forgive us, and we're begging, please forgive me. That's probably never going to happen.
What's something that you've recently had to forgive yourself for?
For being triggered. I recently was triggered, from that same scenario that we just talked about, actually, from, being blamed for something that I didn't do. And I had to, again, go to the mirror, look at myself, and say, you know what? It's okay. I forgive myself for this. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to make time for this. I'm going to make this a priority, but I forgive myself for this. And forgiving yourself is so powerful because until you truly, really deeply forgive yourself and look at yourself in the mirror, you're always going to feel an empty hole on the inside of you. Always going to be waiting for something on the outside to come and fill that hole, and it's not going to come. I guarantee it. It ain't going to show up. You can have the illusion that something came and filled it, but it's only an illusion. You have to be the one to forgive yourself and fill that hole up with your own love and expand that love. And when you can do that, you'll feel whole again.
Yeah. When you're holding on to that energy too, like guilt and shame.
Yeah.
It's just such a low vibration energetically.
Yeah.
Your nervous system contracts. It drives inflammation on a cellular level.
Yeah.
And then you get an illness, you get a disease.
Yeah.
And it's all stemming from this emotional suppression.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Bro, I really just want to acknowledge you too for coming out here. I've been following your work, huge fan of everything you do. And I really just honor the journey that you've been on.
Thank you.
And the fact that you've literally just dedicated your life to making a positive impact and elevating human consciousness, and that you've really used every single obstacle in your life and you've transmuted it into a powerful opportunity towards your purpose.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, bro.
Appreciate it, bro.
It's really amazing. And I just want to give you an opportunity to share any final message and obviously where people can connect with you and find you.
Yeah. I would just say for everyone, man, if you can start being of service to somebody and looking for solutions to problems, those two things are key. This is what we're lacking. People need to learn how to help other people in ways that they can best, and also start looking for look for solutions to the problems, because the problems are going to be there, and we can talk about them because we have to address the problems. But talking about the problems on a consistent basis without actually looking for any solutions to the problems is where we're stuck as a civilization on the planet. We are a civilization likened to a baby. We want to learn how to get up and walk and eventually run. Right now we're trying to crawl. We can get up a lot quicker if we start looking for solutions and being part of the solutions. So that if we can do that, now everyone's working on solutions, not focusing on the problem. The world's going to shift overnight. So that would be a huge thing. And if people are looking to find me, just go to 4billionknowledge.com. And of course, we have our TV app, 4billionknowledge.tv. It's on the App Store, Google Play, Apple TV, iOS, Roku, Samsung, LG, Android TV, all the apps on every platform. You can go get the 4 Billion Knowledge TV app. 4,000 shows on there now, 4,000.
Damn.
Yeah, and so they can check out a lot of great content. My entire Anunnaki docuseries is on there. It's an award-winning docuseries. Eric Von Daniken's featured in the last episode. He hands me the torch, which is pretty cool. So he's like handing down the torch from his generation to me in the ancient astronaut theory, which is pretty phenomenal. And it's a great, highly produced docuseries that we aired at Regal Cinemas all around the country on the IMAX screen. And it
really?
Every single theater was sold out.
When was that? When was that?
That was all throughout the summer into the winter, 2024 summer into winter. We dropped. I would go to each theater. I would show up on the red carpet. I would speak for an hour, and then we would all watch the next episode together. It was incredible.
How many cities did you hit?
I think we hit 9 cities. Yeah.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
Cool. And honestly, I'm going to look into this Egypt trip because I told you, I'm going to be in Israel July, August, September.
Oh, yeah. Wow, I'll send you the link, yeah.
And I've never been to Egypt.
Okay.
And I feel like,
man.
going with you.
Oh, bro.
Listen,
you have no idea. You're going to be mind blown. I mean, it's not a tourist tour. We even give people a certificate of accomplishment at the end because you're going to get knowledge. It's really a scholarship.
So we're going to link to that Egypt trip in the show notes as well. Billy Carson, man, thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Really, really, really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And there you have it. Like, subscribe, show Billy some love. Much love, everybody. Congrats on making this shit to the end, defeating your ADHD. Let's go. Boom.
Cool. We got it. We got it.
You did it. You made it to the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your support in listening to this podcast. And really, my mission here is to deliver the best conversations, the best people, so you can continue elevating and becoming the best version of yourself. And all that I ask in return is that you actually take action on the things that we talk about in these conversations, whether it's certain habits to implement or certain thought patterns or belief systems that you want to reprogram and remove from your life. I just want to remind you that your life is your gift and you are the creator. You are the main character of your movie. So please, please take action on these things we discuss. And tag me on social media. Tag me on Instagram in your stories at Jeremy Awakens. Let me know what stood out the most to you. Let me know what were some powerful moments for you from this conversation. And finally, if you haven't already done so, it would mean the world if you left a review for the podcast. Word of mouth is our oxygen. This is what allows us to reach more people and impact more lives. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next time.